Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the most shocking and unforgettable FNAF fan games ever created. From moments that completely caught me off guard to games that went in directions I never could have predicted, these titles constantly managed to surprise me. Some of these left me staring at the screen, wondering what I had just experienced, so let's dive into them. IP crossovers is something that happens quite often in different forms of media, and Five Nights at Freddy's is no exception. We've seen classics such as Five Nights at Sonic's and Five Nights at Wario's. However, I'm sure you can think of many other crossovers this massive genre has. I've recently learned about a FNAF game that has a crossover with another massive horror piece of media, and I'm very excited to share with you my experience with said game today. This game is very cool and incredibly difficult, so strap in and join me today as we dive into the world of SCP: The Endurance. When I first saw this game, I was really concerned that it was going to lean more into being a game like SCP Containment Breach instead of Five Nights at Freddy's. But luckily for me, I'm not going to have to bust through randomly generated rooms. Maybe in another video, I'll be forced to do that. But for now, yes, this game does follow the typical Five Nights at Freddy's formula. In SCP: The Endurance, we play as a Class D personnel. For those of you unfamiliar with SCP, Class D personnel are the lowest level of individuals of the SCP Foundation, consisting mostly of death row inmates. They usually live in solitary confinement cells and are often tasked with doing very dangerous things that could easily get them killed. And of course, this game has us do just that. The game opens to an infomercial designed for these Class D personnel, offering all of them the chance for some major benefits if they take part in the Endurance program, which by the way is slang for kill yourself. We've all seen situations like this before in media, and it's honestly one of my favorite story structures, so I was pretty excited when I first saw this. The task we have to complete, of course, is surviving 6 nights while watching over a section of the facility, while 8 monsters try and mush up your insides and make a nice little inside soup. We obviously don't want that to happen, so what tools do we have at our disposal to prevent such a catastrophe from happening? Well, let's start with stuff you'll always be using that isn't character specific. To your right, you have a door that can be closed. Pretty standard FNAF stuff. The longer the door is closed, the more power it will consume. In front of you, there is a hallway that you can flash, exactly like FNAF 2, except this time around, when something is in the hallway, the most ear-grating PTSD-inducing sound of all time doesn't play. Of course, there's the camera system, which does something that makes my dick hurt when I see it. That being that the camera has multiple levels for you to look at. There's nothing wrong with this mechanic, by the way. Just thought I'd mention how it makes me want to shit out my own organs. And finally, you can turn off the power to both your cameras and the entire building. The reasons for doing both of these things will become important later, so for now, just don't worry about it. Actually, that's a lie. Nothing actually happens on night 1 as it's just introductory, so I actually want to take this time to talk about the fucked up shit that is this game's power supply. This game drains power so fast, it isn't even funny. This is to encourage you to shut off essential systems to save on that power, because if you don't, there is literally zero chance you will survive the later nights. Inside of the cameras, you have the ability to turn off your ventilation. This game takes place underground, so if it's off for too long, you'll just suffocate and die. But it will make your power drain slightly slower, and in a game where you'll be completing each night with single-digit power integers, that is huge. Obviously, that's also where shutting off your cameras comes into play, as that will also save some power for you. However, booting up the cameras does take about 3 seconds, and with how brutal this game gets with character speed on later nights, I promise you that 3 seconds is a lot of time to wait. However, shutting off the cameras will also be essential to actually surviving the nights in this game. Now is the time I should mention how you need to start each night, as it's not as simple as just listening to the phone call. Each night you will have to boot up the computer for the first time by using a password. This password is randomly generated each time you start up a night. So if you die on night 4, for example, when you retry night 4, the password will change yet again. Each night starts with you booting up the PC and typing in the password. I highly recommend that you Control A, Control C, and Control V the password at the start of the night as well, because if either you or something else shuts off the power to the facility and you have to turn it back on, you will have to re-enter this password. So being able to copy and paste it is obviously a big time saver. We also have access to an SCP library where we can learn and read about the SCPs that we'll be encountering. Most of these entries are mainly for lore reasons, and in all honesty, I don't have a lot of interest in diving into the behaviors of each character, as it's literally pretty much just a wiki page. So I probably won't be doing that much in this video. I'm imagining most of you who are watching my channel frequently also probably know at least a little bit about SCPs anyways. Again, as I said, Night 1 doesn't actually have any threats. You just get taught by the phone guy, Ronald, how to do everything you need to do, and that's about it. But now we can hop into Night 2. And holy shit, this game goes from 0 to 80 really fucking fast. But hold up guys, I want to take a little break here to tell you that this video is sponsored by me. For those of you who didn't know, I have channel memberships. I would never ask anyone to do this as I don't even have any interesting perks attached, but if you really enjoy what I do and would like to support me a little bit extra, that's a great way to do it. Also, if you'd like to actually get something for your money in return, I have a merch store with some designs I commissioned from a fan, the same fan who actually drew these new character PNGs. So if you'd like to have my silly little demon character on your clothes, then that's a great place to go do that. And hey, if enough people end up liking that stuff, I will 100% get some more created in the future, and maybe even commission some more fan artists for some uniqueness in art styles. You can find the link to that in the description of this video. Sorry for the interruption, let's talk about the bullshit that this game has to offer. Night 2 introduces 5 characters. That is over half the fucking roster on Night 2. I'm going to start with the easiest characters and work my way to the hardest. Strap in because this is going to get interesting. By far, the easiest character to deal with in my opinion is SCP-860-2, who I will just be referring to as SCP-860. 860 is the only character that uses your door. It will appear outside of the door far away in the trees. Which, by the way, side note, I don't really know why there are trees outside of this door. We are underground, but whatever. Throughout the night, it will approach your door until it is right up next to it. When it is, all you have to do is close the door and wait to hear it run away. If this door is closed for too long, the power to the building will be shut off and you will have to completely reboot, re-entering the password to the computer and all. I believe this is the easiest character simply because of how infrequently he attacks in comparison to the other characters. You may see him 5 or 6 times a night, which is a godsend compared to some of the other assholes we'll be talking about in a bit. The next easiest character in my opinion is SCP-066. 066 is just a giant pile of meat with some eyeballs. 066 by itself will not actually be able to end your runs. Instead, it cosplays as Satan. It will attack from the vent on your ceiling. At random times, you may see the vent on your ceiling open up. When you see this, you will have to simply click the vent to close it, and that's all. If you leave it open for too long, 066 will drop into your office and stay there for the rest of the night. While there, it will slowly increase the AI values of all of the other characters, which, by the way, has the chance to increase their AI values over the max 20, which, yes, will still make them harder. It also has the random chance to play sounds at 140 decibels, so just like, really don't let him into your office. You may be wondering why I've chosen to call 066 more difficult than 860, despite the fact that all you have to do is mindlessly click when you hear a noise. Well, that's because 066 is probably the fastest character in the entire game. On later nights, you will have less than 2 seconds to react and close the vent. And of course, it itself doesn't kill you. The ramping AI of the other characters probably will. Of course, that's unless you're Frogger and beat the 820 mode with 066 in the office the entire night. That guy's a madman. Next, we'll talk about SCP-096, arguably one of the most popular SCPs of all time. SCP-096 has the chance to spawn literally anywhere in the entire building, whether that be on any of the cameras or even directly in your office. Wherever it happens to be, all you have to do is stop looking at it. If it's in your office, flip up and down the camera quickly. If it's in the camera, either switch cameras or pull the camera down. While yes, 096 is not a problem by itself, it's in combination with how hectic and stressful the rest of the game gets, which is the reason I think 096 is as annoying and difficult as it is. SCP-106 is the next degenerate I'd like to talk about. This is the pocket dimension asshole, by the way, if you were curious. Occasionally, you will both hear and see 106 in your office. When you do, you'll have to put on the mask. Oh yeah, you have a mask, by the way. I know I forgot to mention that. I just wanted to keep you on your toes. And I totally didn't just forget it existed until I started talking about 106. So shut up. If you don't put the mask on fast enough, it appears one of two things could happen, I think. Maybe it's every time, but I've seen this not happen to some people on Deaths to 106 multiple times. When you become caught by 106, it has a chance to teleport you to a pocket dimension. We're in the fucking guy that we're in the guy that does fucking genjutsu, aren't we? Oh my. What the fuck? What? Yo! This is sick as fuck. Oh, he dead. Oh, he dead. Where the game is put into a 3D environment where you have to complete some parkour across some rocks to escape. If you do manage to escape, then congrats, you get to continue the night. But of course, chances are you'll have spent too long in the pocket dimension that you'll probably die upon coming back. This pocket dimension also has some interesting secrets by itself, but I'll be talking about that a bit later in the video. Sitting there doing nothing in the mask is obviously not something you're going to want to be doing while being ass-pounded by 7 other characters. So that puts 106 pretty high up on the difficulty chart in my eyes. SCP-173 is by far the most grueling and annoying character in this entire game. He acts as this game's main reason for using the cameras, which also really sucks because in most cases you'd prefer to have your cameras off just because of how horrifically quickly the power drains. 173 will slowly move throughout the building until it gets to your vent. You may notice to your left a giant vent is open on the wall. Yeah, if he gets there, you're dead. So, how do you stop him? Well, by staring at him on the cameras, of course. 173 has this super awesome and totally not penis tearing attribute where it will never move backwards and only forwards. So you really have to make sure you have your eyes on this thing the entire night. However, I should mention that once 173 gets to your office, that it's not an immediate game over. Oh, hey, I'm not blinking. I am not blinking and I'm looking right at you. Looking right at you. There's actually 2 phases it will have to get through before it can slither inside of you like one of those parasites that will swim up your urethra if you piss in a gross lake. I don't know. In true 173 fashion, if you're looking at him, he won't move. But if you open the cameras, turn to the side to deal with 860 and the door, or anything else that blocks your view of 173, it will move through its phases before blowing up your anus. Again, 173 is easily the most difficult character throughout this entire game, only being rivaled by one other asshole who we'll talk about later. But for now, if you can deal with all of that bullshit combined, you will successfully beat Night 2. Yeah? Did you forget we were only talking about Night 2? Yeah, there's still 4 more of these, so strap in. Night 3 introduces one new threat. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. It introduces the remaining 3 because fuck you. Those characters being SCP-049, SCP-1048, and SCP-079. Only one of these characters is actually a big issue, so let's talk about the less annoying 2 first. Let's start with what I feel is the easiest to deal with of these 3, SCP-1048. It's just a teddy bear. But a teddy bear that can move, to be fair. It takes advantage of your hallway. Appearing in it throughout the night, it will try to enter your office and murder the shit out of you. All you have to do is keep your flashlight on him to push him backwards. Not hard at all, just another power waster of a character. SCP-049 is the Plague Doctor, and I honestly wish I had the plague while playing this game so that I had a good excuse to just kill myself rather than continuing. 049 makes use of the 2 lockable doors on the bottom layer of the cameras. You can only lock one of these doors at a time, and thankfully doing so doesn't waste any power, and they don't unlock if the PC is shut off. If you see 049 at either door, simply lock it and it'll be no problem. The actual difficulty of 049 just comes in the likelihood that you will forget he even exists, and only remember once you find him in your office. And finally, the second most difficult character in SCP the Endurance is SCP-079. This guy is just a little quirky fella, really. He's just a bored little guy that really wants to play tic-tac-toe with you. What is this? What is that? Yes, I'm serious. There is a special panel to the left of your office. Throughout the night, 079 will play games of tic-tac-toe with you. Now, you may be a little inclined to completely pummel this stupid fucking computer's ass while playing this game with it. But I would actually advise against that, as if you lose too many games or win too many games against it, it'll get pissed off and start fucking with your lights and doors, which will probably end up leading to a death. So it's actually the best practice to just constantly draw against 079 every time you play. And there you have it. That is every single character in SCP The Endurance and how they work, all introduced on the third night. And it's only going to continue to get more and more soul-sucking as your playthrough goes on. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I couldn't complete Night 5. I put in a lot of attempts, but as I've mentioned multiple times in the past, I'm very bad at FNAF games, and I just couldn't beat it. I'm sure if I continued to pour in attempts that eventually I would complete it, as I did get to 5 AM a decent handful of times. I still have no desires to spend hours trying. I'd much prefer to just talk about it. After completing Night 5, we get the special meal we were mentioned to get at the beginning of the game in the infomercial. But guess what? We're still depressed because we're still in solitary confinement, and I'm about to tear my hair out, except I've already torn all the hair out of my head, so you'll have to use your imagination to figure out where I'm tearing the rest of my hair from. However, we're not done talking about this game quite yet, as there still are some cool things that it has to offer. Mainly, now is the time I want to talk about SCP-106, or Larry's Pocket Dimension, and how important it is for unlocking both Night 6 and this game's secret ending. The first step to unlocking the secret ending is finding the 3 burnt pages in Larry's Pocket Dimension. There are skeletons all around this dimension, and every time you enter, a piece of a burnt page will appear next to one of them, which, yes, means you will have to go into his pocket dimension multiple times to acquire them all. The platforming in this game does make me want to skin a puppy alive, but hey, it's a FNAF game, not a platformer, so I guess that means something. Oh, and you want to know the best part? The pocket dimensions are totally random, so you could get the pocket dimension to spawn the same page multiple times, which means in theory it could take hours for you to ever be able to collect all 3. And you can't do the secret ending until you get all 3 of them, even though the code on it doesn't change. So that's realistically probably the worst part of this entire game. Spoiler alert, FNAF fans aren't a super huge fan of RNG. Who would have thought? Once you get all 3 pages and escape, you will be able to put them together in your office to reveal the code PGF4B. Typing this code into the computer instead of the one on the sticky notes will unlock Night 6. Night 6 is where you can get the secret ending. Not only is Night 6 hard as fuck, but getting the secret ending only makes Night 6 even harder. Once in Night 6, you will want to once again type in the burnt note code PGF4B. After it boots, you'll want to type in the command run power manager. This will give you a special tab on your second monitor that you can use to control all of the power in the building. This is where the secret ending makes Night 6 very hard. Obviously, Night 6 by itself is already difficult, having several threats to keep track of and having to react very quickly to all of them. However, the additional tasks this secret ending requires only serves to add more confusion and stress to your plate. In this new Power Manager menu, you will be able to click through every room of every floor in the facility. It looks a lot more confusing than it really is. The only sections that matter are the rooms that contain the elevators. You'll have to go to each elevator room and turn the power to each of them on by manually typing in codes. This section heavily reminds me of some of the tasks you're required to do in Banshee, another FNAF game I've covered on this channel. You should definitely watch that video after this one if you haven't already, by the way. This is the main reason I think this secret ending is so stressful. There is already so much bullshit happening at the same time that to add in precision typing on top of that really makes for a super tense experience. And while no, I never did it myself, I applaud anyone who was actually able to pull this insane shit off. After turning on the power to each elevator floor, our character will actually speak.
It worked! I can finally get the hell out of here.
Which is where I learned that we play as a female throughout this game. Not that that really matters, just something I wasn't expecting. We get a final cutscene of our inmate leaving the building, avoiding all the characters she'd been going up against thus far, and escaping the facility, only to find out that she was right in the sights of an SCP worker's gun. We never get to see if the bullet hits her, but we can only hope it didn't and that she was finally able to escape. But don't click off the video yet, you little piece of shit! I see you checking how much longer there is trying to fuck up my retention. Stop it! You stop it! Naughty. Anyways, I've still got something else I want to talk about in this game that I think is really cool. So, it's becoming more and more common for FNAF games to integrate Game Jolt achievements. I think that's awesome. I think achievement hunting is super cool. But something I notice about a lot of these FNAF game achievements is that they're boring. Oh, beat night 1, beat night 5, beat night 6, beat all 20 mode. Stuff you would imagine people are already doing, which I feel makes them not feel like achievements a lot of the time. SCP The Endurance also has these achievements, except I've noticed that it also has a lot of super fun ones. So I'd like to dedicate this section to talking about those achievements. The first achievement I want to mention is called Seriously How. It can be achieved by dying on night 1. You may be wondering how that's even possible, considering there are no characters active and you have unlimited power. Well, there still is one way to kill yourself during night 1, and that's by turning off the ventilation and suffocating yourself. If you do that, ta-da! You've got yourself an achievement. It's a goofy one, yes, but I still think it's pretty cool. The next achievement I want to mention is called Ah, There You Are. This achievement can be obtained by allowing SCP-1048 to completely enter your office. Once he does, if you spam click his nose enough, you'll get this achievement. Yes, quite a few of these are pretty silly by the way, but that's why I like them. The next achievement is called Oh Whoa, What's This? Hey, shut up. I just told you they were silly. This one can be achieved by simply using the command commands or help in the terminal. You're a femboy, aren't you? Don't lie. I said oh whoa and I saw your little stupid ass fucking light up, freak. The next interesting achievement is called One Step Forward, Two Steps Back, and can be achieved by collecting one of the burnt notes in 106's pocket dimension and proceeding to fall out of the world and die. Interesting that they chose to call that an achievement, considering you didn't actually achieve anything at all. There are also 2 achievements that can be incredibly difficult to achieve. The first of which is called Catch Me If You Can. You get this achievement by surviving the night after aggroing SCP-096, which isn't necessarily too hard if you aggro him right at the end of the night, but you also have to hope that you can find him right at the end of the night. The other, much more difficult achievement is Staring Contest. This one is ass, I can't even lie to you. You have to let SCP-173 into your office for at least 1 entire hour of the night, so 1 minute real time. This is disgusting because you literally can't look away from him. And not looking away from him for a minute will require a good deal of luck to not get butt banged. There's also a really silly achievement called L+ ratio, wherein you complete night 3 without ever looking at the cameras, which I'm not going to lie, just sounds like complete hell. And finally, the last achievement in the game, which I would actually say is worthy of getting a trophy, is called My Goals Are Beyond Your Understanding, which is achieved on night 6 if you turn off every single light in the power manager, then shut off literally everything in the office that you can, leaving you completely vulnerable in literally every way possible. Doing this isn't hard. Doing this on night 6 definitely is. But as far as I'm aware, that's all SCP The Endurance has to offer. Overall, I think this game is incredibly solid. It was in development by one person for over 8 years, and I think it turned out great. Yes, it's really hard. Yes, I think the burnt notes being RNG is bullshit. And yes, I think the game giving you little to no hints for anything in the game is pretty ass. Overall, I still think this experience was a good one. I think this is probably one of the most high quality FNAF games I've seen in terms of how much dedication was poured into it, and I highly recommend you guys go and give it a try. One of my favorite genres of games is roguelikes. I also, as I'm sure you could have guessed, really like Five Nights at Freddy's games. I've only built a whole career off of it, so I'm sure you could have figured that out. So I bet you can imagine my pleasant surprise when I was told that there was a Five Nights at Freddy's game that was also a roguelike. The moment I learned of this, I downloaded it as fast as I could and started filming videos because I just knew even before playing it that it was going to be getting a Dxtr White video, and here we are now. You guys know what game I'm talking about. You can see the length of this video. I very clearly like this game a lot. So sit back, relax, and join me as we dive into the chaotic world of Too Many Nights. Unlike most FNAF games, Too Many Nights doesn't follow any storyline or the typical FNAF formula. Instead, it acts as an endless minigame that doesn't stop until you fail, Although I'm sure you already knew that, considering everyone on Earth has played a roguelike before. At the start of each run, you will get to pick a character, of which there are many. Each character gives you a different set of abilities, with each having a list of pro and cons. You don't start with all of them and will have to gradually unlock them by doing specific tasks. I'll go over them in a bit. After picking a character, you will have to select 3 animatronics to put into the pizzeria, and this is where this game gets brilliant. You get to choose 3 animatronics yourself. The game will never choose them for you, and your initial choices will be random at the start of each run. However, if you really don't like your starting options, you can press R to re-roll your first pick as much as you'd like. As I'm sure you could have guessed, there are several animatronics in Too Many Nights. Each has a unique mechanic, and it will be up to you to plan out which animatronics you bring along, and control how they will be forced to interact with each other. Each animatronic falls into a certain category. You have your door animatronics, your camera animatronics, your mask animatronics, your vent animatronics, your flashlight animatronics, and what I'm going to call your nuisance animatronics. Each of these categories serves its own purpose, and generally speaking, picking multiple animatronics from the same category will make your gameplay experience easier. Before I really start talking about the characters, I'd like to explain the rest of the experience of a run. To start, after selecting your first 3 animatronics, the run will begin. After completing a night, you will be forced to add 1 new character. Every few nights, you will also be forced to add a penalty. These penalties fall into 2 categories: your general penalties and your character penalties. I'll dive into each of these later as well. After selecting a penalty, you may get the chance to go to the shop and buy some items. Throughout the night, you will gain Faz coins from successfully defending yourself from the animatronics. Once again, I will get into these items later. Keep repeating this process until you eventually die, and boom, that's the gameplay loop of Too Many Nights. Of course, that was a very oversimplified explanation. So now we're going to dive into each of the animatronics, how they work, and to keep it interesting, I'll even throw each character into a tier list so that you can all argue about it in the comments. But hold up, guys. I want to take a little break here to tell you that this video is sponsored by me. For those of you who didn't know, I have channel memberships. I would never ask anyone to do this as I don't even have any interesting perks attached, but if you really enjoy what I do and would like to support me a little bit extra, that's a great way to do it. Also, if you'd like to actually get something for your money in return, I have a merch store with some designs I commissioned from a fan, the same fan who actually drew these new character PNGs. So if you'd like to have my silly little demon character on your clothes, then that's a great place to go do that. And hey, if enough people end up liking that stuff, I will 100% get some more created in the future, and maybe even commission some more fan artists for some uniqueness in art styles. You can find the link to that in the description of this video. Sorry for the interruption. Let's talk about everything that Too Many Nights has to offer. I'm just going to go down the list that appears on the wiki, and be prepared, there are a lot of animatronics. Editor, I'd say I'm sorry for what you're about to have to do, but that would be a lie. Let's go. Freddy is a camera animatronic, aka my personal least favorite type of animatronic. Freddy will start on stage and make his way towards your right door. All you have to do is occasionally stare at him on the cameras to make him go backwards. I'm sure you can guess why I'm not going to like a majority of these camera animatronics. If he ever reaches your door, he will never leave, and you'll be forced to keep it closed for the rest of the night or die. Freddy also has 5 penalties that have the option to be chosen when you have to select a penalty. The first is Mad Freddy, which will make you have to look at Freddy longer to make him go backwards. His second penalty is Branched, which gives him a chance to be able to attack your left door as well. And when you're playing this game, you will very quickly fall into a pattern, so having a character be able to switch up on you like this would very obviously throw you off. Stare Down is another Freddy penalty. This one is horrific. It makes Freddy never move backwards. Staring at him will only stall him. However, to compensate, he moves a lot slower, and the camera doesn't have to be up for you to be able to stall him. Invisifreddy is a penalty that I'm sure you could take a solid guess at what it does. That's right, it makes him fucking invisible. Isn't that great? Sure, a sound cue is added to his movements, but fuck that. That just sounds like AIDS. Finally, we have Nuh-uh, a penalty that's just so silly. When Freddy gets to your door, he will prevent the door from ever closing again throughout the rest of the night. Isn't that awesome? No, it isn't? Yeah, I know. Don't choose this one if you can help it. Overall, I'm not a fan of Freddy, but without penalties, he isn't the worst character in this game, so I'm going to give him a C tier. Bonnie is a door character, aka a character I usually like to pick. Bonnie starts on stage and makes his way to your left door. Once there, a sound cue will play and you'll have to close the door and stare at him on the camera until he goes away. Then you can open the door again. Incredibly easy character, however he does have 3 penalties. Cutting is a penalty that makes both Bonnie and Chica take shorter paths to your doors. Because of how easy both of them are to deal with, this penalty isn't too bad. Quiet steps makes Bonnie and Chica not make sound cues while at your door, so yeah, fuck that. No other words need to be said. And finally, flip side is a penalty that will make Bonnie and Chica swap doors immediately after leaving the first door. Easily the second worst penalty these two have. Speaking of Bonnie and Chica, Chica is literally identical to Bonnie, except she attacks the right door instead of the left. And because of this, and how quick I am to pick these two, I'm putting both of them in S tier. Foxy isn't the worst character I've seen, but I did avoid choosing him for a very long time. Foxy will try to leave his stage in the ticket booth. Have your camera on him to stall him. If you don't, he'll charge at your door and bang on it, and make you lose a poop sock full of power. Foxy has 3 penalties and 1 item, which is pretty cool. Insta-Foxy is a penalty that will cause Foxy to instantly start in his last phase at the start of a night. This penalty actually isn't that bad at all, just let him charge right away and it's like the penalty isn't even there anymore. Hen House is a penalty that forces the camera to be up to stall Foxy, which actually is the most cancerous thing I've ever heard of. Haywire is the final penalty, which will make him attack your other door directly after attacking the first door. The only bad part about this is that him banging on your door drains power. And the item that Foxy has is called Good Guy, which makes Foxy not a threat. Looking at him will make him progress, and when he comes to your office, he'll give you a nice little gift like a good boy. Because of how much of a non-issue he is if you balance him properly with the other characters, I'm putting him in B tier. Mangle is a vent animatronic, and she's honestly not that big of a problem. She'll move through the cameras into one of your vents. All you have to do is put your mask on when she's in a vent. She will enter the office for a short period and then leave. I personally hate having to use the mask in this game, so I try my best to avoid characters that force that, but Mangle is probably the easiest of them. Mangle does have 3 penalties. Anger management is a penalty that makes looking at Mangle speed her up. Aggressive Mangle is a penalty that makes Mangle force you to put the mask on for longer. And finally, slithering in is a penalty that causes looking at Mangle in the vents to make her immediately appear in your office. Overall, I hate the mask mechanic. However, Mangle isn't the worst mask character in the game, so I'm giving her a C tier. Caroline, or the Marionette, behaves exactly how you'd expect her to. She's a music box. Hooray! Who could have expected that? If the music box winds down, for the rest of the night she will randomly teleport to a camera with a sound cue at random intervals. You will have to find her and stare at her if you don't want her to kill you. She does, however, have a whopping 6 fucking penalties, so that's just amazing. Let's go over all of them quickly. Winding down makes you have to wind the music box for longer. Moving box makes the music box move to a random camera every time you pull the camera down. AIDS. Muted music makes her not make a sound cue when she teleports to a camera. Show Stealer gives you less time to find her while she's away from the music box. Last Stand is really ass, by the way. When it turns 6 a.m., Caroline will teleport to a random camera, and the night will only end once you find her. Dude, there's nothing I can do about that. I can't do anything about that. That's just fucking cooked, bro. I can't do nothing about that. And finally, the worst penalty yet, Caroline Carousel, which will make her be away from the music box the entire night. Genuinely, never pick this penalty. Caroline is definitely annoying, but in all honesty, the music box is pretty forgiving until much later nights. So, because of this, I'm only putting her in D tier. Lizzie is the first non-FNAF canon character we'll be talking about. Fun fact, there are a lot of non-canon characters, but I think that's what adds to this game's charm. Lizzie herself isn't actually the threat. She spawns down bitty buds in your office while your camera is up. Simply hold your flashlight on them and they'll disappear. If there are too many, they'll call Lizzie and she will then kill you. Lizzie has 2 different penalties as well. Speedy Bud will make the bitty buds call Lizzie to your office faster, and Help Wanted will turn the brightly colored bitty buds into dark colored plush Lizzies, which are much harder to see in the very purple office. Lizzie is one of my favorite characters to see in my runs. I love flashlight characters, and I really love office characters. So because of this, I'm giving her S tier. BB is a bitch, but I'm sure you didn't need me to tell you that. And of course, they gave him the worst mechanic of all time. At random times, he will teleport to a random camera with a sound cue.
Hello?
You will have to find which camera he's on and hold the flashlight on him. If that wasn't bad enough, his penalties make him even worse. Mute BB makes him not make a sound cue, which is actually just fucking torment. Don't pick this. I'm moving will make him teleport to a second camera after you find him the first time. Little asshole. And aggressive BB will force you to hold the light on him for longer. Literally, fuck that. I'm sure from the tone in my voice, you can tell I really don't like BB, so because of that, I'm obviously giving him an F tier. Sparky the dog is a camera character that makes me piss blood. He's in the storage room and has 4 phases he will move through before appearing in your office and forcing you to put the mask on for a decently long time. To prevent this, all you have to do is stare at him on the cameras, something I've already made clear I'm not a super huge fan of. He also has 3 penalties if your urine wasn't already red enough. Mad Sparky will force you to look at him on the cameras for longer to push him back. Sparky Speedy will make Sparky move faster, obviously. And aggressive Sparky will make you put the mask on longer if he enters the office. I don't like camera characters. I hate the idea of staring at a character to stop them. D tier. Percy Poodle, yes, from Playtime with Percy, is easily one of the best characters in the game. Being an office flashlight animatronic, all he does is have multiple phases in front of the big office window. He'll start pounding on the glass in his final phase, and you'll then have to hold the flashlight on him to make him go back. He also only has 2 penalties, and both of them really aren't that bad. Aggressive Percy will make him only go back to his last stage the first time you deal with him, but only the first time, so who cares? And Mute Percy makes him make no sound cue when he's pounding on the glass, so just open your eyes and this won't be a problem. Percy is simple. Percy is always an easy pick. S tier. Rowan Rat, on the other hand, is actual fucking torment. At random times, he will appear in any of the 4 corners of the building. When you see him in one, shock him and he'll go away. You will also have the ability to use a radar to detect where he is and where he's going. Oh yeah, and you only have a certain number of shocks, so that's just terrible. He has 4 possible penalties, and all of them are worse than death. Aggressive Rowan gives you less time to shock him. No radar removes the fucking radar, making you constantly have to check all 4 corners yourself. Less shocks obviously gives you less shocks, as the name would suggest. And Invisi-Rowan makes him fucking invisible. Fuck that. Never in a million years am I picking that shitty option. Rowan by himself isn't the worst, but if you get any of his penalties, which will happen eventually, he becomes a nightmare. So I'm putting him in D tier. Maple is almost a good character, but because it's not the only character you'll be up against, it's hard to find it as an attractive pick. At the beginning of each night, it will require you to collect a certain amount of plushies. This number increases with its AI value. You will then have to search around the cameras for these plushies. If you don't find them all before 6 AM, it'll kill you. Amazing mechanic, but again, it's not the only one, so it's really just more of a pain in the ass. It does have 3 penalties. What are those? Well, Early Killer will have it check if you have the plushies at 5 AM rather than 6. Hidden Counter will literally just make it not tell you how many plushies you need to find, which is bullshit. And Restock will add a timer to how fast you need to find the plushies. If you don't find them in time, it'll re-hide all the plushies again, forcing you to find them all in pretty much one go. Again, it's not the worst, but can easily get out of control on later nights when you start to only focus on certain cameras while it has the large plushie counter. So I'm going to give it a C tier. Noelle is another very interesting character that easily has the chance to be forgotten about. When you start the night, a pair of scissors will appear on a random camera. At complete random, Noelle can appear in the office with a sound cue. When it does, you need to find the scissors and click them to make it go away. The scissors will then teleport to another random camera. If you don't click the scissors, it'll force you to put the mask on for a few seconds, which is a long time in this game. Noelle, of course, has 3 penalties. Pull down will make it forcefully pull down the camera when it enters your office, which could honestly be seen as a good thing. Bro, that's not okay. I fucked myself. Having the force pull down from Noelle mixed with the Roby absolutely fucking creamed my ass, dude. Aggressive Noelle is terrible. When it enters your office, if you click any camera aside from the one with the scissors, it will immediately make you put the mask on. And Crazed Teddy will cause it to insta-kill you instead of putting the mask on. A certain item does affect Noelle, however. If you have Chill Pill, you will get 4 additional seconds to put the mask on when it attacks you, which is a lot of time in this game. I'm not a huge fan of Noelle, especially not when it has Aggressive on, so because of this, I'm going to put it in C tier. Melatonin is a real bitch of a character. It moves around the cameras, but it's invisible when it does. You'll hear it laughing in one of your ears, and on the 3rd laugh, you'll have to close the door of whichever side it's on until you hear it leave. It has 2 penalties that just serve as the salt in the wound as well. Switch Up is easily the worst. Before it moves, you'll have to check the dining room to see a counter for how many laughs it'll have before attacking, now being randomized from 2 to 4. Unplanned only makes its first laugh on the correct side, needing you to remember which side it was originally on. I don't like characters that I can't see. I also find it really hard to keep a timer in your head like you need to do with Melatonin, so because of this, I'm putting it in D tier. Lydia is a dog. She'll be in the ticket booth in a fucking cage where she belongs. When you hear her banging on the cage, you'll have to take her out like Ol Yeller. Just kidding, you actually just have to hold the cage until that dumb mutt shuts up. The wiki for some reason doesn't have a page for her, and since I avoided her at all costs, I actually never experienced any of her penalties. But if I had to guess, I'd bet one of them makes you hold her cage for longer and another makes her not make noise when she's attacking. But going off of how I know her to be with no penalties, I'm going to put her in C tier. Amber is a character that at first didn't seem too bad, but will very quickly become a run killer. She begins at the entrance. At random times, she'll hold up a playing card with a suit on it. You will then have to click the corresponding suit on the cameras or she'll kill you. The 2 penalties she has might actually be the most evil ones in the entire game. Follow Suit will give her the ability to have more than 1 card, and 52 Pickup will make that number of cards she can hold literally be any number, which is so retarded I can't even begin to explain why you shouldn't pick this, so just don't. I thought Amber would be great, but I very quickly started to avoid her whenever I could. C tier. CG is annoying, a nuisance character, but not very hard to deal with unless you get unlucky. She will randomly move around the cameras, and if you look at her on the cameras for too long, she'll make you put the mask on for a really long time. Her penalties aren't really the worst, however. Aggressive CG will make you put the mask on for longer, and Insta CG will make her enter your office if you look at her, period, even if only for a fraction of a second. However, a monitor is added to your office showing exactly where she is at all times so that you can easily avoid her. There are much worse nuisance characters, and if you don't have any of her penalties, she really isn't a problem. B tier. Dsam is a character I never once chose throughout my playthrough. You may think that makes me a bad reviewer, but I personally think that makes me someone who values not killing myself. Sam will slowly walk back and forth in front of your window with some sound cues. Before he gets to a door, you will have to close it, making him a character you pretty much always have to be watching. He has 2 penalties. Quiet Sam removes his sound cues, and Invisisam forces you to only use his sound cues. So pick your poison, dumbass, or even better, just don't pick this character. D tier. Roby is torture. I thought he wouldn't be so bad, and let's just say I wasn't so right. He sits in your office with a timer on his eye. When it reaches 0, you must have your mask on or you will die. He has 2 penalties that are all equally terrible. Mute Roby removes the sound cue he makes right before waking up. Awoken Roby makes him stay awake longer, forcing you to put the mask on longer. I'm dead serious. Don't pick this character. He is horrific. F tier. Alexis is simple, but very easy to forget about, especially on later nights. She will randomly wander around the cameras. If you pull the camera down while on the camera she's at, she'll make you put the mask on for a really long time. So you'll have to switch cameras before pulling them down. She also has 3 penalties. Aggressive Alexis makes her act like CG, where looking at her for too long will also make her attack you. Sneaky Ghost will only make her appear on a camera after you look at it for a second, and Crazed Ghost will insta-kill you instead of making you put the mask on. If you are diligent and aren't an idiot, Alexis is not an issue. But because of how fast you'll be switching through cameras on later nights, I can't give her any higher than a B tier. Onion is another character I never choose. When you pull up the cameras, there's a chance he'll be on them and quickly run left or right. You will have to close the corresponding door. If you close both, he'll drain a bunch of power. Again, for some reason he doesn't have a wiki page, so I don't know what his penalties are, but just knowing what he does, I'm going to put him in C tier. T Generic is a very annoying character who I only choose if every other character was ass. He will be in the entrance with an arrow on his face. Once he leaves the entrance, he will go to whichever vent he was pointing to, and you'll have to stare at him in that vent until he goes away. If he gets into your office, you'll have to put the mask on for a very long time. He has 3 penalties that somehow make him even more annoying. Crazed Robot will make him insta-kill you instead of putting the mask on. How About I Do Anyway will make him enter your office regardless of if you looked at him in the vents or not. However, if you did look at him, you'll have to put the mask on for a shorter amount of time. And Glitched will make T Generic sometimes switch what vent he's going to, making his arrows completely useless. He's a character that breaks the rules and that breaks my balls. D tier. Kaiden acts in much the same way as T Generic. He'll start in the entrance holding a sign with an arrow pointing left to right. Once he leaves with a sound cue, you'll have to close whichever door he was pointing to. He of course has penalties that make him silent and make him go in the opposite direction the sign was pointing to. I've actually picked Kaiden multiple times because if you can avoid his annoying penalties, he's an incredibly easy character to deal with, since you can close both doors when you hear his sound cue for about 2 seconds and not have any additional penalties. A tier. The ink monstrosity is always an immediate pick for me. It starts in your office on the ceiling and slowly creeps down. Hold your flashlight on it to force it back up. The best part is it'll basically teleport all the way back up when you flash the light on him, but that's where his penalties come into play. Stubborn will make you have to hold your light on him, removing the loveliness of this character, but overall still isn't too bad. Head Start will make the ink monstrosity start halfway down in your office and won't be able to go all the way back up to the top. Easily the worst penalty this character has. I love this character, always an immediate choice for me. S tier. Robo Popcakes is a character I initially avoided, but eventually grew to really like picking. At random, he'll spawn on your cameras. Not a specific one, he'll just be an overlay. You will have to match up 2 patterns using the arrows on the overlay, and once you do, he'll disappear. If you don't do it in time, you'll die. This character is always one I liked choosing because of how likely I am to pick characters like Bonnie and Chica, because while I stare at them on the cameras, I can deal with RoboCake, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He has 2 penalties. X = X minus 2 gives you 2 less seconds to align his face, and Pop Time will only cause time to progress when you complete a Robo Popcakes attack. Overall, even with max penalties, Robo Popcakes isn't a terrible character. A tier. Entity 12 is pure masochism. They'll start in the storage or maintenance and move down your hall. Watch them on the cameras to make it go back. If they get to your office, they'll make you put the mask on for a long ass time. And get this, the 2 penalties they add doesn't make it any better. Aggressive Entity 12 will make you put the mask on for the rest of the fucking night if it gets into your office. And Run Killer will literally start with it inside of your office and it will never leave. Literally fuck that, fuck this character, F tier. Mura is a character I'd highly recommend not picking if you have other characters that don't want you spamming through cameras, because you will have to be doing that a lot with Mira. Mira will be in the kitchen the entire night and will require you to feed her candy. If you don't feed her enough, you'll die. Candy will randomly spawn throughout the cameras, so you'll have to surf through them to click on them. The penalties she adds are brutal. Savory Tooth makes candy spawn less. Small Plate puts a small cap on the amount of candies you can hold at a time. And Sweet and Sour adds sour candies that will remove a candy from your candy counter if you click on them. So if you've been working your muscle memory this whole time and get this penalty, have fun clicking on every single sour one all the time. I'm not a fan of the camera surfing this character brings, and I'd much rather prefer to just ignore picking her. D tier. The Ringmaster is an interesting character. He'll randomly spawn on your cameras. When you see him, you'll have to flip the camera down and greet him in your office. If you switch cameras, he'll make you put the mask on for a long time. Crazed Magician is a penalty that will make clicking off of his camera just instantly kill you. And Masked Magician will make flipping down the camera always make you put the mask on, but for less time than usual. I don't love picking Ringmaster, but I will usually end up choosing him later in a run. B tier. The entity is someone who gives me AIDS. They will randomly spawn on your cameras in 3 locations, except only one of them is actually real. You'll be able to tell because the fakes will be more transparent. Again, for some reason their wiki isn't available, and I never actually chose any of their penalties, so I'm not totally sure what they are. But I hate find them on the camera characters. You guys know that. D tier. No VA is a character I only dealt with once, acting as probably the most nuisance characters of all the nuisance characters. No VA will randomly move around your cameras. You will have to avoid clicking on the camera it's on, or you'll have to put on the mask. On lower AI levels, the camera it's on will be marked with green, making it very easy to see. As the AI goes up, it'll get harder and harder, eventually becoming fucking invisible. And let me tell you, the penalties make it even worse, as I'm sure you could have guessed. Malware makes clicking on no VA's camera kill you instantly. Spamware makes no VA on multiple cameras at a time, and adware creates an adware window on your cameras. If you don't close it fast enough, it will force you to look at no VA's camera. I actually think this character is really cool, and I think that its penalties are actually super interesting. Aside from malware, that one is AIDS. I still don't love picking this character though, because I hate mask characters. So because of this, I'm giving no VA C tier. Moldy is a character that is a really good pick for early game, but late game will easily become a character you will forget about. Whenever you pull down your camera, there's a chance he'll be in your office. If he is, you'll have to hold your light on him for a while, or you'll have to put the mask on. He has 2 penalties. Aggressive Moldy will make you have to shine your light on him for longer, and Crazed Mold will make pulling up the camera while he's in your room instantly kill you. Again, early game, he's amazing, but you will very quickly forget about him once more characters start to get added. So because of this, I'm giving him B tier. Rita Rabbit is thick, but that's not important. What is how she works. She sits on her fat ass in the arcade, slowly attempting to leave. All you have to do is hold the flashlight on her to make her go away. Honestly, not that bad of a character if you pair her with other arcade characters, which there is a decent amount of. She has 2 penalties. Aggressive Rita will make you hold your flashlight on her longer, and Cheeky Rabbit will make her move faster the longer you're not looking at her camera. If you know how to stack her with other characters properly, Rita shouldn't be a problem even if you have her penalties. A tier. Coral is another character that I love seeing as an option to pick. Coral will randomly appear at either of your doors with no sound cue, so you'll have to make sure you're paying attention. Simply close the door he's at and he'll knock, letting you know he's left. He has 2 different penalties. Blinding will make you additionally hold the flashlight on him for a while, and making sure will force you to have your camera down while the door is closed in order for him to leave. I love this character, he's super easy to deal with, S tier. Shrimp is another character that just makes me giddy with joy whenever I see her. Shrimp will occasionally spawn some shrimp food in your office on either side. Whichever side it's on is the side you have to close the door of until the shrimp food disappears. The 2 penalties she adds are easily some of the best to deal with. Big Shrimpin' is a penalty that will cause the shrimp food to have the chance to be really big. If it's really big, you just have to close both doors. And Small Shrimpin' gives the food the chance to have the lid off. If it is, all you have to do is close the door to the opposite side of the food. Shrimp is incredibly easy to deal with, she's satisfying to deal with, and she doesn't use the fucking cameras, which I love. Easy S tier. Worm is the next character we have to talk about, and I avoided this guy like the plague. I was very scared of how it was going to work, so I never actually ended up using it. Worm will start in the dining room and go down your right hall and will stay there until you open the door. When you open the door, it'll crawl through your office. Avoid looking at it either by using the mask or looking at the cameras until it leaves. It also has 2 penalties. Snail makes it move across the office slower, and Digger will make Worm add another bar of power usage while it's at your door. Worm just seems like a character that would completely disrupt the flow of the night, and because of that, I'm putting it in D tier. Kyle and Bob are the 2 next assholes I want to talk about, and these guys are weird. And also really shitty and confusing, and I don't fully understand them. Kyle and Bob are 2 separate animatronics, but they work in tandem. Both of them are vent characters. If Kyle, the yellow one, enters your vent, you have to look at him on the camera or he will enter your office and make you use the mask. If Bob is in your vent, you can't look at him on the cameras or he'll enter your office and make you use the mask. The only problem is, I was never able to figure out how to tell which one entered the vent. At first, I thought maybe they'd alternate and I'd have to remember, but then during one run, Kyle attacked twice in a row. So I'm thinking there has to be something I'm misunderstanding about these two. Of course, they each have 2 penalties. Crazed Sun makes them instantly kill you if they enter your office, and Eclipsed will make one of them invisible while the other is in the vent. I tried to like these guys, but because I'm retarded and can't fully figure them out, they were never for me. D tier. Magi is a pretty interesting character. He will consistently walk back and forth in front of your window. At random, he will make a sound cue letting you know he's about to attack.
Come on, go.
When he does, you have to close the door to the side he's on, leading to you needing to keep track and remember which side he's on at all times. This isn't too bad for someone like me who tries to be able to stay in the office as much as possible. Magi has 3 penalties. Reach around will change the way his sound cues work. If he says
Surprise,
or
you won't see this one coming.
you will then need to close the door to the opposite side he's on. This can be confusing for obvious reasons. Do it myself is a penalty that will make Magi attack the opposite door whenever you deal with his puppet the first time. And Invisimagi makes him fucking invisible, as I'm sure you could have guessed. Magi is not my favorite, but I have no problem picking him later in the run when things are getting tight. B tier. Mallory, on the other hand, is torture. She stays in the ticket booth. At random, she will hold up any amount of fingers on one hand. You will then have to flash her with the flashlight that many times. If you flash her too many times or not enough, she will dash at your door 15 times. This is AIDS, and I can't even lie, 15 times? Why so many? Seems a bit overkill, don't you think? But let's talk about her penalties, which she has 3 of. Ambidextrous will make her be able to show you up to 8 fingers. DoorDash will make her charge 20 fucking times instead of 15, and DoorDash EX makes her charge your doors for the entire night. Easily one of the most bullshit characters when you have her penalties on, but if you can avoid choosing them, she's only really ass because her hand is conveniently behind the fucking camera map. D tier. Roy is one of the only camera animatronics I can actually stomach. He starts in the dining room and slowly makes his way to your office. You can lure him to a previous camera by holding your flashlight on them. Since he's a moth, he's attracted to the light. He only has 1 penalty, Aggressive Roy, which will just make you have to hold the light for longer to get him to move. Overall, very solid character, and not too annoying to handle until his AI value gets really high. A tier. Silly is kinda silly. Fuck, editor, cut that out. Silly is my favorite vent animatronic. He moves around the cameras, who gives a fuck? Eventually, he'll enter one of your vents. When he does, all you have to do is hold the flashlight on him before he enters your office and eats your butt. He also only has 1 penalty, Aggressive Silly, which makes you hold the flashlight on him for longer. Very simple character, he makes sound cues. I like sound cues, S tier. Next up, we've got Bop. She's an interesting ADHD-riddled little fuck. When you pull down the camera, there's a chance she'll be standing in your window. She will then dash towards either of your doors. Simply close that door before she gets to it. She has 3 penalties. Layered Square will make Bop charge your doors multiple times. Bop Spawn will cause Bop to be able to spawn at your window even if the camera is down, and Force Down will make Bop force your camera down if it is up. A character that requires quick reaction time, and when more characters get added can be easily missed. E tier. Venus is a fucking plant. Oh, you want to know what they do? Sure, that's fair enough. Venus will sit in the kitchen the entire night like your mom in the middle of the night looking for more food even though she ate 65% of dinner that night. Throughout the night, bunnies will spawn in your room and you'll have to click on them to collect them. You then feed these bunnies to Venus in the kitchen camera. Very fucked up, Venus. These bunnies are cute. Venus has a hefty 4 different penalties, actually being one of the highest in the game. Wabbit hunting will make the bunnies in your office jump around, making them harder to click. Except they're still not hard to click, so it's not that bad. Depopulation will make the bunnies spawn less frequently. Wanderer will make Venus randomly move around your cameras instead of camping the kitchen. And Mako will add Venus's friend Mako into your office. If you click on him, you'll die. Venus is very fun to play with. Their mechanic is satisfying, clicking on the bunnies is fun, and even most of their penalties aren't too bad. S tier. Cyrex is the next character we need to talk about, and I absolutely hate her. She starts in the ticket booth and slowly makes her way to your office. Before she gets to your office, you'll have to go to the ticket booth camera and call her to your office manually and then put the mask on. If she gets to your office by herself, I'm assuming you can guess what happens. And if you couldn't have already guessed, her penalties aren't much better. Rising aggression makes her make you put the mask on longer the longer you take to call her to your office. And Call Tracker will randomize the camera the call button is on every time you use it. This character is Torment. This character is Anguish, F tier. Next we have Ellie, another character so potently AIDS I fear even talking about her. Her goal is to chew the wires in the storage room to cut your power. You will have to watch for her in either hall. When she's in one, you must make sure the door on that side is open and shake a box of snacks on that side of the office to lure her inside of the office. She will leave shortly thereafter. If your office door isn't open when you lure her, she will bang on the door and drain your power. She also has 3 penalties if this didn't already sound terrible enough. Shaker will force you to shake the bag of treats longer. Power Chomper will make Ellie drain more power when she bangs on your door, and Wind Skip will make her able to teleport from one hall to another without ever appearing in your window like she usually does. I don't think I have to explain why this character is awful to deal with. The rules that go along with her are far more complicated than any other character, F tier. The next character we have to begrudgingly talk about is Ammo. Ammo starts in the dining room and will slowly wander to your right door. Each camera he travels through will have an eject button with 2 power. Before Ammo reaches your office, you must press the eject button on any camera that has the eject power, which will then send him back to the dining room. Once a camera is out of power, there's no way to get it back. If this wasn't terrible sounding enough, you haven't even heard of his 3 penalties yet. Quiet Ammo will remove his sound cue when he moves. Single Take only allows each room to have 1 eject power instead of 2, and Demon adds Ammo's friend, Demon, who will randomly move around the ejectable cameras. If you eject a camera Demon is on, you will die. I hate this character. Dealing with him can be bad on higher AI values, but since he's nowhere near as bad as some of the other characters in this game, I'm putting him in D tier. And here we are, 29 pages into my script later, and we can talk about the final animatronic in this game, Swagman. Swagman has a pretty interesting mechanic I've actually never seen before. He will randomly wander around the cameras. You will have to stare at him to fill his swag meter up. If it goes all the way down, he will make you put the mask on for a long ass time. However, this mechanic isn't as bad as I usually say it is, because you can easily tell which camera Swagman is on because he lights it up. So, what about his 3 penalties? Well, Swagalicious makes him move from camera to camera faster, which can get annoying. Endless Swag will force you to put the mask on for the rest of the night if Swagman gets in, and Eye on the Swag will make Swagman's meter go up slower than usual. Overall, not a bad character, and no penalty that removes the ability to see what camera he's on. C tier. And there we go. That's every single character in Too Many Nights. I love how many there are. It leads to such a new and interesting experience every time you play, and I love it. But now I'd like to mention the general penalties that aren't specific to any character, as there are a few of those as well. Generally, from what I've noticed, it's much smarter to pick the general penalties over the character penalties, as it will be much more likely that they will be easier to deal with. Overtime will make each hour of the night last 2 seconds longer, and you can actually have 2 overtime penalties active at a time. Less power will, as the name suggests, make you start each night with less power, 10% to be exact, and you can have 3 of these penalties. Less room is a penalty that will give you 1 less option when selecting animatronics, and you can have 2 of them. All-Star will make the next enemy you add start at max AI value. Stranger Danger will add a random character you don't already have at a very low AI value, and Midnight Motivation will make all characters' AI value increase at 3 AM. All-Star, Stranger Danger, and Midnight Motivation are probably going to be penalties you always want to avoid, but I personally don't think the other characters are that bad. Next up, I'd like to talk about the characters that you can unlock to play as, because if you remember, each character has different pros and cons for you to choose from. To start, each character has a different amount of lives they'll start you with. Getting jump scared by an animatronic will cause you to lose one of these lives, giving you multiple opportunities if you mess up. And of course, I'll be putting these guys on a tier list as well. The first character you will have by default is Michael. He gives you 3 hearts and has no abilities. He's as basic can get, really. D tier. You also by default have 3 other much more interesting characters. The first being Elizabeth. She gives you 4 hearts and forces the enemies to have their AI values increase slower. But as a con, you'll receive half the amount of coins you'd usually get. The low AI value honestly makes her pretty valuable, but of course, never being able to buy anything is never fun. C tier. Evan is the next auto-unlocked character. He gives you 3 hearts, makes all enemies start on a higher AI value, but to compensate, nets you 1.5x more coins, which will be nice for when we talk about shops later in the video. High AI values are never super great, especially if you're dogshit at FNAF games like I am, but overall he is nowhere near the worst character to choose. C tier. Cassidy is the last character you'll unlock by default. She only gives you 1 heart and makes every single enemy start at maximum aggression, and forces you to pick a penalty every single night. She also will never allow you to see shops. Instead, you can use your money to remove penalties and animatronics. I don't care that you can remove things. Having to pick a penalty every night whilst also only having 1 heart is pure AIDS. F tier. Henry is the first character on the list to unlock. However, you can unlock them in pretty much any order you want. Henry is unlocked by beating at least 1 night while using Michael, Elizabeth, Evan, and Cassidy. Something that should be very easy to pull off. He gives you 3 hearts and gives you way more options when picking enemies, penalties, and shop items. However, you will be forced to pick more enemies and more penalties. The last thing you're going to want to do is give yourself more threats. So even though your option pool is bigger, the cons outweigh the pros here a lot. D tier. Gabriel can be unlocked by having 2 penalties active in a run that affect Freddy. He gives you 3 hearts, gives you a guaranteed shop every single night. But as a downside, each character comes with a few of their penalties already added. I'm sure you know what I'm going to say, and a lot of character-specific penalties are horrific. Sure, you may never have to pick a penalty after beating a night, but I really don't care about that as much as getting butt-fucked by character penalties. F tier. Jeremy can be unlocked by getting a power outage on night 3 and beyond and still surviving the night. Generally one of the harder characters to unlock. He gives you 5 hearts. You start the run with 500% power instead of 100%. The nights are shorter than usual, but as a downside, your power carries over from night to night. But don't let that fool you. 500% power is a lot of fucking power, and if you're good at enemy building, you can easily make that last a long time. And 5 hearts is a fuck ton. Easy A tier character. Susie will be unlocked if you die to Chica twice in a single night and then beat that night. She gives 3 hearts. Each enemy starts at max AI value, but you gain 1 life after you beat a night. Now, at first glance, this may sound really bad, but I actually had my second best run ever using Susie, and it's 100% because of that life gain. With characters always on max difficulty, there's no way for them to get harder, so you'll get used to them at their hardest difficulty pretty quickly. Sure, she's not the best, but she definitely isn't as bad as she sounds. B tier. Fritz is unlocked by having 100 or more coins at one time in a single run. He gives you 2 hearts, and your lives are attached to the number of coins you have. To be specific, for every 50 coins you have, that equals 1 heart. Overall, this character is more confusing than it will ever be useful, actively discouraging you from ever buying anything. You're better off just using Michael, as there's no real downside. D tier. Fitzgerald is unlocked by beating night 5 in a run whilst only picking the leftmost enemies and penalties. I actually struggled a bit unlocking this character, so what does he do? Well, you start with 3 hearts, and each enemy and penalty are randomized each night, meaning the 3 enemies you pick on night 1 will be different on night 2, and you can also pay to reroll, as well as getting a shop every single night. This character really just serves as what I'm going to call a challenge character. You would never actually want to bring this character into a legitimate run, and because of that, I'm giving him an F tier. Sally is easily the most unique character out of all of the normal ones, and I'll explain what normal means in a bit. You unlock her by beating a night with both Percy Poodle and Rowan Rat on max AI values. Sally introduces a brand new mechanic, that being the pup pal from Playtime with Percy. It works in the exact same way as in that game, and the best part, your progress on the night is tied to it. No more waiting out the night. You will have to complete the games on the pup pal for the night to end. Again, this goes to serve as more of a challenge character than anything else, as playing Sally will by default make the game much harder. And because of this, I'm giving her F tier. Again, Not because she's not a fun character, but because if you're trying to get far in a run, she's not the character for you. And finally, we have the man himself, Scott Cawthon, who is unlocked by completing Night 3 with every other character in the game. And of course, since he's the final character, he has the most interesting mechanic. He himself doesn't have any abilities, instead letting you pick the pros and cons from every other character in the game, allowing you to mix and match your favorite pieces from other characters. You don't need me to tell you that Scott is a broken character. I'm pretty sure you can figure that out. Easy S tier. And boom, that's every single playable character in Too Many Nights. So now we can start talking about the items that can be bought in the shop. I won't be going over each and every one since there are literally a fuck ton to talk about, and this video is already long enough. But I do want to talk about some of the best ones to look out for. Early Out is an item that will make each night 2 seconds shorter. More Power will start each night with 10% more power. More Room will give you more options when picking animatronics. The Empress will give you 1 life and give you more options when picking animatronics. The Emperor will decrease every animatronic's AI value by 2. The Chariot will have you start each night with 15% more power. The Hanged Man will remove 2 random penalties you have activated. Death removes a random enemy. The Moon makes each hour 3 seconds shorter. Fritz Children's Bible will make items you can't afford never show up in shops, and Sparked will make sparks appear randomly on cameras, and touching them will increase your power. Those are all of the yummy mashed potatoes in my belly items that I like to look out for in the shop. Again, there are a lot more, but I think it would just be really boring to go over all of them. But there you go. That's everything you need to know, and as far as I'm aware, everything that Too Many Nights has to offer. I would highly recommend you give this game a try. It is some of the most fun I've ever had since starting this channel, and I actually plan on doing some Too Many Nights streams here on this channel. If that's something you're interested, let me know. Also, if you were interested, Too Many Nights is actually getting a version 2.1, and it's being worked on as I'm writing this. I'm super excited to see what it has to offer once it's fully released. This game is so incredibly unique and combines 2 of my favorite game genres of all time into one amazing game. The art style is unique, the community input is fantastic, and of course, the gameplay and gameplay loop are impeccable. Roblox horror games, something that is pretty atypical for this channel. In fact, I've only talked about Roblox horror games twice on this channel before. One video being about Rainbow Friends and the other about Pressure. However, recently I've been getting suggested a couple Roblox FNAF games to play. I always knew there were FNAF games on Roblox. In fact, there's a couple of Roblox games that place really high on the official max mode list. Of course, I did always intend on getting around to playing these games, and if you follow Dxtr Black, you'll see that I have played a couple, and the game that we're covering here today is one of those games. A reimagining of one of the most hated official Five Nights at Freddy's games of all time, fixing all of its problems and introducing several new mechanics that make the game feel fresh, while also looking so graphically impressive, you'd be surprised to hear it was even made in Roblox at all. So join me today as we dive into the world of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 Reimagined. In terms of the game's overall story, not a whole lot has changed. At least, that is up until the end. We'll obviously talk about that later, so if you were hoping for a massive lore dump, hate to break it to you, it's pretty much just the official lore with a few changes. Night 1 starts the way most do. You get a phone call from the phone guy, Ryan. Ryan gives us the basic rundown of what's going on, what we're doing, and how to do it. So I suppose that means it's also my turn to do the same for you. Except I'll throw in a couple dick jokes along the way, and then after the video is over, you could read the comments to find the few comedy police who say something along the lines of, "Gah, I was really liking this video, but the amount of inappropriate jokes really just took me out of it." I'm glad it took you out of it. Us normal people who aren't afraid to laugh at stupid jokes are gonna continue to have fun. Keep seething. To start, there are many things that have stayed the same. Of course, the office layout is pretty much identical, 2 vents to the right and left of you, and a big open hallway in front. The camera setup has been left exactly the same as well, so at least we don't have to relearn the basics. What is different about the office, however, is the breaker box which can be found behind you. Opening it, we can find breakers to several of the cameras around the map, and I'll explain why this is important a bit later. One thing I do want to point out right now though is why we whip around at breakneck speed. Seriously, look at how violent this animation is. Calm down, buddy. You're gonna give yourself whiplash. Dude, why the fuck does dude move so much? He turns around, he fucking whips. Look at him. Fuck, it ain't that deep, bro. Anyways, the next thing I want to talk about is your flashlight, as that has also been changed slightly. To start, you'll notice there is no longer a battery life to your flashlight. So you may be wondering how Balloon Boy is supposed to work without his integral mechanic. Well, hold your dick, little spastic. You're getting way too far ahead of yourself. Let's slow it down and take this little by little. Your flashlight is now used to flash not only the hallway, but the 2 vents as well, as now the vents don't have their own dedicated button. Before we continue on, there's also one little thing I do want to point out about your office I thought was funny. If you take a look at the clock on your desk, you'll see a coffee mug is blocking the second set of digits, probably so that the developers didn't have to actually program the clock ticking second by second. This literally plays no role in importance in the entirety of the game. I just think it's fun to see the way devs are able to cut corners sometimes. Anyways, moving on to the first threat this night introduces, those being Toy Chica and Toy Bonnie. Oh shit, damn, oh damn, mama. Sorry. Boing. They work the exact same way they do in the original with some minor tweaks. For one, if you weren't aware, let me give you a quick fun fact about Five Nights at Freddy's 2. If you dig through the game files, you'll be able to find an unused asset for Toy Chica. It's never seen throughout the game and was originally intended to be used to allow her to glide across your office like Toy Bonnie does. It's even completely coded in, but it's never called in the actual game. Well, Reimagined brings this back, and in a big way. Both Bonnie and Chica will enter your office after being in your vents. However, unlike the original, where you can see both Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica staring at you in the vents, in Reimagined, they instead chose to bolt through your vents at the speed of sound, giving you no time to see them in your vent. When you hear them coming, you have to put the mask on fast. Like, I'm talking fast as shit. These guys aren't playing around at all. If they get their hands on you, they're gonna rock your world. I'm talking tie your own dick into a noose and make you hang yourself with it. Ooh. God, no, not that. I meant to fucking put the mask on, bro. I meant to put the mask on. That jump scare was insane, by the way. Seriously, I'm probably not going to get around to showing you each of these jump scare animations, but you should go check them all out because these animations are clean as fuck. This entire game looks super clean. Keep in mind, this is Roblox. It is so impressive how good this game really looks. Anyways, moving on to talking about the game. More specifically, Night 2 and the new threats it introduces. Hold up, Dexter. What about the marionette? Does she not become active on this night? No, dear viewer. No, she doesn't. In fact, the marionette is completely absent from this game. That's right, FNAF 2 Reimagined removed the music box mechanic from this game entirely. So, with my dick as hard as a rock from getting that information delivered to me, let's happily heel click our way into Night 2. Night 2 only introduces one new threat, but it's a big one. Withered Foxy. Now, I want you to pause real quick. I promise you, he is nowhere near as carpal tunnel inducing as he is in the original. In the original, Withered Foxy would appear in your hallway. You'd have to spam your control key to flash your light at him until he disappears. Every time you'd flash, an invisible value would increase by 1, and when it reached 20, he would go away. He also showed up frequently as fuck, making him the second most annoying character in the entire game, right after Toy Bonnie. So, how does Reimagined fix him? Well, he actually has two different mechanics. The first still has him enter your hallway. He'll make a breathing sound cue when he does. All you have to do is hold the light on him for a little bit and he'll leave. No spamming required. However, if you hear this sound cue and for some reason don't see him in your hallway, that means he's either in camera 1, 2, 3, or 4. You will have to find which camera he's in and use your flash beacon, which, by the way, is just a beam of light I've chosen not to mention so far. When you do, he'll fuck right off. Perfect. Something interesting about the phone call on night 2 is that Ryan called us in the first place. At the end of the night 1 phone call, he said he wouldn't be calling us again because the boss, presumably William Afton, is breathing down his neck. So getting a call on night 2 is surprising. He said he saw William inputting new parts into the old robots. He also tells us that these old models are very aggressive, which is interesting because usually the phone guys in these games will refuse to tell us anything about what's going on. Night 3 introduces 2 new threats, those being Mangle and Withered Freddy. Mangle is the easiest to understand, so let's start with her. She follows a very basic path, starting at the prize corner and making her way into your hallway. From there, she'll just crawl across the ceiling into your office rather than entering the right vent like in the original. Of course, all you need to do is put the mask on and it's problem solved. Now, on to Withered Freddy, who is the second reason to look at your cameras aside from Withered Foxy. Freddy is not fooled by the mask, something that you may find interesting given the fact he is in the original. And I have a theory as to why he is this way. We know William is using new parts on the old characters, which is why they're moving. Well, Toy Freddy never activates throughout this game. He literally has no mechanics. So my theory is that William is using parts from Toy Freddy to make Withered Freddy move around. For what reason? That I don't have an answer to. Anyways, what does Freddy actually do? Well, he begins in the main room and will slowly walk throughout the building to your office. Since he's an older model like Foxy, he's very sensitive to light, so the flash beacon will push him back a camera. Every time he moves, he'll make a very noticeable sound cue, making it easy to keep track of him. Overall, a mechanic I'm not usually a huge fan of, but it does get some brownie points for having a sound cue associated with it, I suppose. It's also during the night 3 phone call we learn why Henry hasn't been showing up for work. Apparently his daughter died. Wow. Who would have thought? I wonder who could have possibly done that. Anyways, snooze fest bitches, night 4 time it is. Introducing the final 2 characters this game has to offer, Withered Bonnie and Withered Chica. Both do the exact same thing, but just attack different sides of your office. Bonnie will attack your left vent and Chica will attack your right. They're just like their toy variants with one key difference. They're not affected by your mask. So how do you deal with them? Well, let's be adults and use context clues like grown-ups. Both Withered Freddy and Withered Foxy are sensitive to light. So, given the fact that Bonnie and Chica are also both withered animatronics, it's safe to say they'd be sensitive to light too. So, when you hear them crawling in your vent, which it does have a different sound cue to the toys coming through your vent, thankfully, all you have to do is hold your flashlight on that vent until they arrive. Instead of just leaving, they will actually throw you into a Five Nights at Candy's 3 style minigame, where they will jump around your office and you'll have to keep your light held on them until they eventually run away like little piss babies. Night 4's phone call mentions that the back room is starting to smell really bad, like there's something rotting back there. Now, I'm no genius, believe it or not. I do talk about Five Nights at Freddy's for a living, but I'm gonna guess that that's because there's 5 dead children back there. Just a hunch, but I'm willing to bet I'm probably correct. Night 5 adds nothing new. However, I do want to use this time to talk about your breaker, since I haven't really done that yet. Occasionally, one of your cameras has the chance to randomly break and go out. When it does, all you have to do is turn around and reboot whichever camera went out. Super simple, and in all honesty, throughout my entire playthrough, which by the way you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I actually rarely ever had this happen to me. And of course, another pretty important thing to bring up is the lack of characters in this game. Notably, Balloon Boy, the Marionette, Withered Golden Freddy, and Toy Freddy are completely absent and have no mechanics. And I actually think that the reasoning for this makes sense, if my reasoning is correct, that is. So, many of the characters in the original Five Nights at Freddy's 2 just do literally the exact same thing. Tell me what the difference between Toy Freddy and Withered Freddy are. Spoiler alert, there is no difference. In fact, the toy animatronics are actually disabled on nights 3 and 4 to instead be completely replaced by the Wizards. They serve no interesting purpose at all. You don't need Balloon Boy since there's no flashlight battery. The marionette doesn't make sense since this game came up with a much better way to force you to look at the cameras. And Withered Golden Freddy isn't present for a lore reason, which we'll be talking about in a bit. And by a bit, I mean right now. After completing night 5, we get this cutscene.
Michael, William just pulled into the parking lot. You need to get out of there now. Don't even bother with the parts and service room anymore. Just get the hell out. He knows you're in the middle of your shift. There's no other reason he would be there than to... Just get out. I'm waiting outside in my car right now. Let's get into the village. I called the police, but they won't be here for a while. This place is in the middle of nowhere. Wait. He's messing with something on the side of the building. Hold on.
Calm down. I'm not going to hurt you. He's afraid of me. He won't follow you in here even if he could.
How in the world are you talking to me?
What do you mean? I'm right here, aren't I?
You're not human. How could you talk to me?
I'm not human? Look at my hands right here. I'm talking to you right now.
But, never mind. Oh, this is insane. Who are you?
My name is Charlotte.
What the hell happened here?
He hurt us really bad. I was bleeding here, then I fell asleep. I can't move anymore.
You were bleeding?
Yes, I was bleeding right here, I think. After that, I don't remember much. Then I woke up.
Do you remember anybody else here with you?
My friends were here. He hurt them too. I tried to stop him, but the more I cried, the more it hurt. I just wanted them to be safe.
I'm sorry. You said he hurt us. Who is he?
You know who he is.
I believe I do. He's here right now. William.
I know that. He won't come in here anymore. He is afraid of me and my friends.
Are your friends the ones out there right now?
Yes, but they're confused and angry. They're looking for the one who did this to them.
Why are they so aggressive to me? I would never.
William was masked when he hurt us. They don't know who to blame. It doesn't help that you're wearing that uniform.
Why don't you just tell them?
It's not that easy. I can't talk to them the same way I can talk to you. They won't listen to me. I think they're still in shock.
How do you know the truth?
My father knew William. They were business partners. I never thought he would hurt us. I trusted him.
Do you really believe you're still human?
I don't feel any different. I can still see my hands and they look like my own. I just feel a little cramped. If I think about it too much, I'll go mad.
Where did William hide you and your friends after he hurt you?
I don't know. As I said, I fell asleep after he hit me.
Is there any way I can help you or your friends? Help you move on?
Burn this place to the ground.
But
It's the only way to help my friends. They'll get nothing from revenge. It'll only make them more confused.
okay, I can help you. Wait, one more thing.
Yes?
I haven't heard William in a couple of minutes. What is he doing right now?
Hiding like a coward, waiting for me to kill you. He thinks I'm like the others. He believes that when my friends inevitably kill either you or Ryan, they'll get the closure they need to leave their bodies. It's a pipe dream, but his last resort. He's been trying to get us out for days now without destroying the characters.
Your father. You said he and William were business partners. His name is Henry, right?
Yes, his name is Henry. Please tell me he's alright.
I don't know. He's been looking for you. He filed a missing persons report to the police and he hasn't come into work for a week.
I don't want him to see me like this.
He'll find out the truth sooner or later. Okay, I think I'm ready.
Thank you for this. Break those pipes in the kitchen and you'll release flammable gas into the building. Do you have a lighter?
Of course.
William is hiding in the bathroom right now, waiting for you to walk down the hallway. Don't worry, my friends will find him shortly. They're relentless, as you would know. He doesn't have the slightest clue how aggressive they've gotten. It won't be pretty.
He'll get what he deserves.
That he will. Quiet. Listen. Quick, now's your chance. Let this place just become a bad memory.
So, we set William ablaze in typical FNAF fashion, and FNAF 2 Reimagined comes to a close. Kind of. When this game first came out, that is where the main story ended. However, months after, a DLC was released that introduced a sixth night. And that night is something so unique, I've only seen something like it once before.
Michael, you have a calling. Your efforts to save them, how selfless, have failed. They're still here with me. Charlotte, Oliver, Lucas, Ethan, and Zoe. I still remember their screams like it was yesterday. And they'll die again, and again, and again. Unless you come back to me and finish what you started. You're going to wish you never defied me.
Night 6 has us re-enter the restaurant after it burned down. We have one final task to complete, saving all of the children. This night reminds me heavily of the entire gameplay loop of A Shadow over Freddy's, mainly in the way you move around, and the only threat present. As you could have probably been able to tell from the cutscene, William, of course, didn't die from that fire. William will randomly wander around the building. When you run into him, you will have to do something. I literally have no fucking idea what it is you have to do though. I was never able to actually fully understand it. I got some comments from viewers over on Dxtr Black because apparently I was just completely fucking wrong. I know it has something to do with your flash burst, which you only have 3 of. Something along the lines of, when you see William, flash him, kind of, except it doesn't ever work. And even if you follow him into the next room he went into to try and flash him then, he'll just kill you instantly. I literally have no idea. Maybe I'm just retarded. Anyways, how do you actually save the kids? Well, behind the stage you'll find a crank. You will use this crank to muff up all of the withered animatronics around the building, who are now barely able to move.
Each room that one of these characters are in are what's known as a safe room, meaning that William will not be able to catch you there. And if you have William's attention from him spotting you, you will lose said attention if you enter one of these safe rooms. Using these safe rooms is what I used while playing this game since I was too stupid to understand what I was actually supposed to do. Freddy's corpse is located in the kitchen, Bonnie is in the bathroom, Foxy is in some fucking room. I actually have no idea what the name of this room he's in is called, and Chica is in one of the party rooms. The big opening to the hallway is blocked off, so you'll have to do a pretty big loop around the building in order to get them all. When you go to use the crank on each of the animatronics, a long animation plays, and it's during these animations you can really see how scared these characters appear to be, really hitting home the fact that even though these characters are scary, they are still possessed by children, and you can really see the fear from them during these cutscenes, especially in Foxy's cutscene, which I feel shows how scared they are the most. After saving all the kids, you can go to the back room to save Golden Freddy, only for this to happen. Rotten hell.
I won't be going to hell. I'm going to watch the light leave your eyes, just as I did with them.
But why? What did they ever do to you? They're children.
She's awake. Are you a tough for good, Michael? You never give up. That's what I liked about you. Go ahead. That's what you want so bad, right?
I want you dead. That's what I want.
Oh, Michael. You never were a good listener.
And with that, that's truly where Five Nights at Freddy's 2 Reimagined comes to a close. A borderline perfect recreation of one of the community's most hated official FNAF titles. But now we have to ask the question, was a remake like this necessary? Did we really need someone to change the original game? I think the answer to that question is a resounding yes. Out of all of the official FNAF games, even though FNAF 2 isn't my least favorite, I can totally agree that it is the most boring and, in my opinion, the most uninspired. I mean, FNAF 2 only released 3 months after the first. That is not a lot of time in development for a game of any degree, and I think it really shows. From reusing mechanics from other characters to artificially inflate the roster, to having mechanics so utterly boring and bullshit like the music box in Withered Foxy, I truly think it's only fair to say that this game did Five Nights at Freddy's 2 better than Five Nights at Freddy's 2 ever could itself. Not only does this game look better, it plays better, sounds better, and is more enjoyable to play overall. Nothing feels too RNG based, and each character's mechanics are solid and unique enough. One of my biggest issues with the original Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is the fact that there is only one vent noise, but there are around 14 different instances where a vent noise plays, making the entire night a confusing, overstimulating mess. Of course, another very common problem people have with Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is the RNG. Of course, technically speaking, it can be beaten with no RNG, but that requires you to have a fuck ton of timers and a bunch of other bullshit, and normal people probably aren't going to be doing all that. As I continue to make videos talking about Five Nights at Freddy's games, as each week goes by, I grow more and more nervous that I will eventually run out of interesting games to talk about. Obviously, the next choice would be to start talking about random horror games until new FNAF titles are released. However, recently I found a FNAF fan game I have never heard of before, a game so interesting I couldn't help but get sucked right into it. The game we'll be talking about today is Night Watch at Freddy's, a FNAF fan game that pretends to be an official demo of the original Five Nights at Freddy's games, but is really hiding some incredibly dark secrets. Stick around because you're not going to want to miss out on this one. This is truly one of the most interesting FNAF games I will ever talk about on this channel. So sit back, relax, and join me today as we dive into the depraved world of Night Watch at Freddy's. Night Watch at Freddy's does not begin in the way a normal FNAF game typically begins. I've actually never seen any FNAF game start in the same way that Night Watch at Freddy's does. Upon pressing start, we're greeted to the night screen, where you can already see something interesting. You have the classic live system that was originally supposed to be in the first Five Nights at Freddy's. But let's pause for a second and back way the fuck up. Take a look at this title screen. Do you notice anything strange? Well, if you said that the creator of the game's name looks a bit weird, then you'd be correct. It says the creator's name is Scott Cawthorn, clearly an alternate version of Scott Cawthon. But that's not where it ends. Right next to the name, we can see the year 2014. Spoiler alert, this game was released in 2025. Let's cut to the chase of why I wanted to talk about this game, as clearly there's something weird going on. Night Watch at Freddy's explores an alternate timeline where the original Five Nights at Freddy's game took a significant turn from what we know them as today. Wow, I hear you say. That's a super interesting idea for a FNAF game. Tell me, who could come up with something as interesting as that? Well, the answer to that question is pretty damn cool. This game's lead director is Avocado Dreams, the same person who's responsible for Graveyard Shift at Freddy's and the remnants of Tubbyland, both of which I've covered on this channel, and you should definitely go check out those videos after this one. But for now, let's continue. Knowing that this game is supposed to be a demo for what the first official FNAF game was intended to be. Of course, since this is an alternate timeline of the official FNAF games, in this alternate universe, Scott actually did end up including the live system that was left out of the official games. And you'll notice plenty more details just like this. For example, there's actually a fake alternate version of the classic Scott Games website, Scott Productions. The team responsible for this game really went all out. This is one of the coolest experiences I've ever seen in my entire time working on FNAF stuff. Before we load into the office, we get to see a developer note talking about Night 1. Keep in mind, Night Watch at Freddy's is pretending to be a demo, so notes like these are pretty common. Welcome to Night Watch at Freddy's, or at least the prototype of it. Some things are still subject to change. For right now though, you can play through what's done of the game and get a feel for how it's going to end up. Night 1 begins, and we of course get a phone call from this game's phone guy. He gives the basic Night 1 spiel that we're all used to. However, he does mention how the breaker and power systems work. Of course, that's my job, so I'm going to be doing that instead. A few things you'll immediately notice about this game. The first, and in my opinion, biggest outlier is how the doors behave. You'll notice that they're already closed from the beginning of the night. You can open the doors and flash the hallways, and doing so increases your usage. Your light especially, but we'll talk about that more once we get into the characters. Moving on to your cameras, you'll notice another scrapped feature from the official games is present here, that being the original camera buttons, where they were originally intended to be circles that would project the direction they were actually facing in the building. Such a super small, cool detail, but if there's anything Avocado Dreams is good at, it's attention to detail. Only one animatronic is introduced on Night 1, that character being Bonnie. Of course, this is an alternative FNAF 1 after all, so keeping the overall order of the character introduction does make sense. Bonnie, as I'm sure you could have guessed, is pretty simple to deal with overall. Bonnie's goal is to get to your left door, exactly how he does in the original.
However, the way you deal with him is different, and he also introduces a new mechanic in the form of points into the game. Once Bonnie reaches your left hallway, staring at him on the cameras will stall him. This will become integral once we start talking about another character that gets introduced. While you're stalling Bonnie, you will get 5 points around every 0.5 seconds. So the longer you watch him, the longer he doesn't move, and the more points you obtain. Something additional to note are your lives. If you are to lose all of them, you don't have to start all the way back on night 1. Instead, your points will just get reset to 0. On top of that, after every completed night, you will gain 1 life. Anyways, back to talking about Bonnie. Once Bonnie reaches your door, you have to open it and hold your light on him until he goes away, which will happen pretty quickly, thankfully, because as I've said before, the lights will absolutely ramp up your breaker stress. Once Bonnie leaves, you'll want to close the door again. Oh my god, oh my fucking god, oh my fucking god, it runs. My chest, dude. Oh my god, don't do that ever again. Ding. No thanks. This mechanic does bring up an interesting and pretty scary point. The doors are closed by default, and if you don't open the door and flash Bonnie when he is there, he will jump scare you. So that brings up the terrifying realization. Bonnie is strong enough to open the door if he really wanted to. Put yourself in the shoes of the night guard for a second. If that doesn't scare the absolute piss and shit out of you, I don't know what will. But aside from that, that's all Bonnie does. Something additional I do want to point out about Bonnie is how fucked up and gross he looks. Why are his ears down like that? Tell me that's not disgusting. Dogs put their ears down when they know they did something bad, and cats put their ears down when they're about to do something bad. So what the hell does a bunny with its ears down mean? That I'm about to get back shots? Probably, and I don't want that. Nice job getting past the first night. Still wondering what I should do with that raccoon. If anyone has any ideas, please let me know. Night 2's phone call just explains one of the new characters. Additionally, Phone Guy says he's going to drop the script the company wants him to read and instead just tell some stories during the phone calls, which he doesn't end up doing this time around. However, towards the end of the call, his dog runs into a fucking door like a moron, and then he ends the call to go take it for a walk. I think that's supposed to be a hint for one of the characters this night introduces, because I have no idea what else that could be. Like the official FNAF 1, Night 2 introduces 2 new threats, Foxy and Chica. Let's go over Chica first, since she's pretty much just Bonnie with a small difference. She will do the same thing that Bonnie does, except she'll go to the right door instead. Same thing goes. Staring at her in the right hall will stall her, and while you stall her, you'll gain points. However, the difference with Chica is how you deal with her once she reaches your door. You still have to open it, but instead of holding the light on her, you have to flash your light at her. Now, come in real close and let me give you a little tip about clicking on things in almost any Click Team Fusion game. The way Click Team seems to register clicks can be delayed depending on your mouse position. I actually first noticed this during my playthrough of Tyke & Sons Lumber Co. a few months ago. If you keep your mouse stationary and click on something really fast, Click Team will not register every click you make. However, if you click, move your mouse slightly really fast, and then click again, then it will register every click. This is exactly how you can get Chica to go away really fast. If you jitter click your mouse and whip around the cursor in a small enough area over the lever, you will flash the light really fast, making Chica leave faster. Fun fact, you can also use this clicking method to ring the bell on your desk really fast and make your grandma's tinnitus act up. But you didn't hear that from me. The other character this night introduces is Foxy, who for some reason is gender swapped in this game. Not really sure on that decision. Maybe Foxy was going to be a girl in the official games, but Scott changed it, and this game is drawing from that. Or who knows, maybe Avocado Dreams just wanted a female Foxy. Either way, it's not really important. Foxy almost works the same way she does in the original. She still has multiple phases she will go through before charging at your office. However, I'm unsure if being on the camera stalls her this time around. After she gets to her final phase and disappears to charge at your office, you'll have to check Pirate's Cove and look at her sign to see which door she's charging at, since, yes, she can attack both. Once you know which door she's going to attack, all you have to do is open that door and wait for her to arrive. She'll lean in and yell at you before running back to her cove. From there, you can just close the door and easy peasy lemon dick, she's been dealt with. Keeping this one short since I haven't really been feeling the best lately. The more I work on this project, the more I feel like it's not aligning with what I've learned over the years. The overall themes are just... I guess it's just something I'll have to get used to. Hopefully it won't impact development too much. Also, I keep getting questions on how to deal with the Golden Freddy. The statue in the entrance doesn't move. There's not even any coding for it to move. I don't understand what you all are talking about. Night 3's phone call is an interesting one. It begins with the phone guy telling us about his dog running into the door. Idiot ass dog. Cats are way better anyways. He starts talking about the new character, a puppet, and about how it really creeps him out. You can tell by the sound in his voice that he really doesn't like this thing.
Dog. It freaks me out.
He explains how to deal with it and abruptly ends the call by yelling at us to not let it out of our sight. So, as I'm sure you could have guessed, the new threat on this night is the puppet, which I'm sure you already knew was not in the original FNAF 1. So, how is this character going to work? Well, it's probably one of the most nerve-wracking, stressful, and anxiety-inducing characters in the entire game. Occasionally, you will hear a sound cue, one that I can't really describe with words. It's really weird. Anyways, when you hear it, the puppet will appear on one of 4 cameras at the bottom of the map at random. It will either be in the bathroom, the show stage, the party room, or the kitchen. You will have to find which 4 of these cameras it's on and hold the stop button like a music box to make it go away. If you don't do this in time, the puppet is going to plow on that pussy. Jesus Christ, what is wrong with me, bro? Oh my God. Put me in a fucking cage, dude. Overall, it doesn't add anything too crazy to the mix so far. Your strategy at this point should be watching Foxy and the 2 halls, staring at Bonnie or Chica to desync the 2 from attacking at the same time, and whenever you hear the sound cue, go deal with the puppet. Overall, not too bad, but night 4 is when things really start to ramp up. This is getting a bit crazy. I thought adding more depth would increase the replayability, but it's honestly overwhelming. Maybe I'll just change it so Freddy only appears during the power outage, but that might be a bit lame. Time will tell, I guess. I'm worried that having so many different things to do might be too much. Also, added the ability to ring the bell on the desk. Thank Lane for that idea. Night 4's phone call gets pretty serious. The phone guy explains that the animatronics are not acting right at all, going places they shouldn't be going, snapping their jaws shut, which they shouldn't even be programmed to do. He mentions Freddy specifically, and how one time before showtime, they found him in the garage of the building, staring at the main power breaker. So yeah, that sounds like bad news bears. Get it? Bears? Like Freddy because he's yeah, you get it. Night 4 introduces this game's final threat. Obviously, it's Freddy. And Freddy ties this game's loop together by single-handedly being the most stressful character in the entire game and making every other character feel 10 times more stressful than they already were. Just like the puppet, Freddy will occasionally laugh. When he does, that signifies that he has moved cameras. Freddy can move between only 5 cameras, and getting to your office is not a concern of his. When he moves off the show stage, he will either go to the bathrooms, the party room, the back room, or the kitchen. If at any point you hear him move and you can't find him on any 4 of those cameras, then that means he's moved to the garage. The garage camera, of course, has no video feed. So the only way to know for sure if Freddy is in there is by checking the 4 other possible cameras he can be in. When you know he's in the garage, you will be able to use the garage's camera scanner. The scanner will then shock the absolute living shit out of him and make him piss off. If you don't shock him fast enough, he will punch the shit out of your breaker and you will completely lose power. So there you go. There is every single character at the same time. Can you see how stressful this could be? Having to constantly watch Foxy, having to balance stalling Bonnie and Chica, balancing your power usage and your camera usage and the power aids that will happen when you use your lights, and on top of that, having 2 characters that will require you to, at random, play a stupid fucking find them on the camera mechanic game. While having one of those bullshit characters also mixing in a small music box mechanic at the same time. Does that sound a little bit overwhelming? If you said yes, that's because it kind of is. But in all honesty, I love this gameplay loop. Sure, I'm not a fan of the find them on the camera mechanics at all. But somehow, this game manages to make every single action you do feel satisfying. It's really hard to put into words, and I would highly recommend you check this game out for yourself. Or ideally, watch my full playthrough over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Link in the description. Nothing really to mention here. I'm just so unsure of everything revolving around this project right now. The ideas are definitely there. I'm proud of the models, the atmosphere is in place, but something still feels so off. I'm really unsure if people will enjoy this, especially with how grim the story is. When I explained the story to my mom, she went pale and just asked me, "What are you thinking?" Just a few weeks ago, I'd have had the answer. Now I'm not so sure. Is this really something anyone would want? Would a story like this really be part of his plan for me? I don't know. I guess it just really goes to show I'm out of my depth completely. There's one more thing I want to try. There's only one way to find out if I'll be satisfied with it though. Night 5 introduces nothing new, just being a harder version of Night 4. But it's clear from the developer notes that the dev is really starting to doubt themselves. And trust me, the phone guy is having a mental breakdown as well.
Hey, glad to hear that you're alright. I was worried since, you see, there's sort of something I've been wanting to tell you. It's kinda... Okay, no, I can't do this anymore, dude. Everything's gone wrong, and I think I know why. On your first night, I told you about a birthday party that went bad way back, yeah? I was keeping quiet on the details. It's a sensitive subject around here, but during the party, the animatronics started going crazy. Kind of like they've been recently, and before anyone knew what happened, the power went out. Kids were screaming, parents were running around, and we were doing everything we could to get the lights back on. But by the time we did, the birthday boy was gone. And we couldn't find him anywhere, and no power meant no cameras, so we didn't have any leads. Not until our night guard didn't clock in for a shift. He hadn't missed a single shift before then, and he would have known exactly how the camera systems worked, so people filled in the blanks. Started a manhunt. Management tried to forget the whole thing, but the town sure didn't. And now it's looking like it's only gonna get worse. I swear I'm seeing things that aren't there, hearing sounds on the walls, and that puppet thing keeps vanishing. I don't know why the animatronics are moving, but all of this, there's only one explanation I could think of. That kid's still here, like his ghost or something. I think it's responsible for everything that's happened since then. And deep down, maybe you're thinking the same thing. That's the only reason I can think of for why you keep coming back. Maybe you know something I don't, but here's the facts, man. This place isn't safe anymore. I'm taking my last paycheck and getting out of here. I'd suggest you do the same, but it seems you're pretty dead set on whatever it is you're trying to do. But I'm sorry I wasn't completely honest with you. No one else believed me, and look, I can't do much to make it up to you, but I know this place that serves some good drinks, and the food's pretty great. Had no animatronics either. Just, give me a call tomorrow if you're up for it. My treat, man. It's the least I could do. Good luck.
After completing Night 5, we get our paycheck as usual. But of course, if you've ever seen any FNAF game in your entire life before, then you'd know we're not quite done yet. Going back to the title screen, we'll see we've unlocked the Overtime Night. And surprisingly, it is not just a harder version of Night 5. Overtime Night starts with a phone call, not from the phone guy we've been hearing so far. If you remember, he said he was quitting, and exactly that he did. The phone call we get tonight is from a woman, talking about how employees have been spreading rumors about the animatronics and monsters, all of which we know is true. She says that all employees who have been spreading these rumors will be docked pay, which I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure that's illegal. And with that, Overtime Night begins. Let's just start by getting one thing out of the way. This night is stressful. However, it's really fun. The entire game is really fun. When I first heard this game was made by Avocado Dreams, I was really scared it was going to be incredibly fucking hard like Graveyard Shift and Remnants of Tubbyland. But to my surprise, while yes, this game definitely isn't easy, there is very little RNG that is overwhelming, and I was actually able to complete this night. Overtime Night introduces one final threat, which this game calls Jailbird. Jailbird is not at all a hard threat to deal with. I feel like she serves more as a nuisance character that you need to spend time on more than a threat that will actually get you killed. Editor, don't you dare think about playing the clip where I died to her. You know full well I died there because I didn't fully understand how she worked yet. Don't even start with me, Buster. You're on thin ice, bitch! Ooh! Ooh! What the fuck was that thing? Whoa! Whoa! What the hell was that thing? Jailbird will wander around your cameras in an attempt to get to your garage. When she gets to the garage, she'll start to open the garage's door. When it opens, she will, for some reason, be at the front door to your office, which up until this point has never been used. If you take a look at the map, I'm not entirely sure how her opening up the garage door makes her end up here. That doesn't make much sense to me, and is why I didn't fully understand her at first. Editor, piece of shit! When you know she's behind that door, you will have to quickly spam open and close your camera. This will make her slowly emerge from behind the door and eventually leave your office. How does this make sense whatsoever? I have no idea. Don't question it. Boss character, hooray, hooray, weird shit! This night is very fast-paced, but because of the way all of the mechanics in this game work together, it serves to be an incredibly satisfying and enjoyable night overall. The difficulty is definitely high, but it is in no way overwhelming like some of Avocado Dream's other games, which I, as someone who is dog shit at FNAF games, can really appreciate. Of course, you also have your custom night, but on top of that, after beating overtime, you get access to aggressive mode, an optional setting you can use to play through the entire game again with all of the characters having movement opportunities more often. I, for obvious reasons, did not try to complete this mode. However, I know there are some people crazy enough to complete it, and I congratulate all of you who were able to, because watching playthroughs of aggressive mode is actually insane. And of course, it wouldn't be a FNAF game without some secrets and Easter eggs, so we might as well cover those as well, right? The first Easter egg is a Golden Freddy Easter egg. I'm not totally sure how it's pulled off, but just taking a look at the video I found, it seems like you need to flip your camera up and down a few times, then sit on the show stage camera. Golden Freddy should start reciting a Bible verse. Interestingly enough, the Bible verse he's saying is about Hebrews who created a golden calf to worship right before they were freed by God. Exodus 32:31. Afterwards, when you pull the camera down, you'll get this jump scare. In one of the earlier dev notes, the developer mentions a raccoon character that they didn't know what to do with. So during my playthrough, which you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I thought the final character in the overtime night was going to be this raccoon, but obviously I was wrong. However, there is a chance you can find these renders of him throughout the game. But as far as I'm aware, that's all Night Watch at Freddy's has to offer. I'm pretty confident that we will be getting more games in this series, since it seems the developers' dive into turmoil is only just beginning. And you better believe I'll be around when and if those sequels or prequels come out. Overall, I think Night Watch at Freddy's has become my favorite Avocado Dreams fan project. And no, that's not just because it was the only one I've been able to beat. I think the idea for the story is incredibly unique. The character designs are great, the game mechanics are literally amazing, and every character works together so well. And of course, it doesn't rely too much on RNG. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think this is easily the worst fan game Avocado Dreams has ever worked on? What is the most disturbing thing you've ever seen while playing a FNAF game? That's a serious question. I really want you to think about it. I'm sure a lot of people are already thinking of the third tape from the original Dormitibus, but that's not quite what I mean. I mean, what's the most disturbing thing you've seen? Literally seen with your own two eyes, or one if you're half blind. Let me cut to the chase. The game we'll be talking about today is the Fazbear Tomb, made by Maroon Fox, who, fun fact, I've actually known for many years, and he reached out to me to ask me to voice some of the characters in this game. Rest assured, that's not why I'm talking about it. The Fazbear Tomb has some of the most shocking imagery I've ever seen in any FNAF game ever. So let's waste no time and jump right into it. With nowhere better to start than night one is where we will start, and we actually get to walk into the building instead of just being dropped right into our office, which I always think is pretty cool. Starting outside, we enter the building and walk into the dining area where we can see Bonnie and Freddy. Chica is also on stage, you can tell because you can see her feet, but unfortunately the rest of her body is blocked by Freddy's enormous belly, which is just not ideal. Moving to our office, we sit down and I notice something immediately which I think is really cool. That being, instead of turning like in most FNAF games, you can actually turn 360 degrees inside of your office. It's such a small touch, but I really like it. Moving on to the tools at our disposal. There really isn't much to be said here. We have cameras and 3 doors to our office. 2 of the doors can be held shut, but the 3rd door cannot, instead allowing us to play dead outside of it. Why can't we play dead next to all of the doors? That I don't really have the answer to. Oh yeah, we can also shine our light in all of the doorways, so that's nice too. We get a phone call from the phone guy, pretty typical stuff. He gives us the normal spiel of how to deal with the characters, which might make you think they'll all be activated on this night, but you'd be wrong. For some reason, we're told how to deal with every character on night 1, even though only 1 threat is introduced on this night. Not really sure why, but whatever. Oh yeah, and one more super cool thing about this game, the phone guy is played by me, so that was super fun.
To make sure he doesn't get you, you must... Well, that is all the training for today. Good luck on your shift and have a killer time at Freddy's.
There's 3 doors. What do you mean? What do I have to do? Also, why am I'm talking to myself? It feels weird. Moving on to the 1 threat this night introduces, that being Bonnie, who is as basic can get. Bonnie's goal is to attack the 1 door in your office with no actual door on it. He'll wander around the cameras before getting there. You can flash your light to double check that he is indeed there, and once you know he is, just play dead. Phone guy says to do so for 10 seconds. Kind of odd how he just knows how long he's supposed to do that for, but I'm gonna look past it. Something I'm not a super huge fan of in this game is just how long the nights are, especially night 1. You'll notice that each minute in this game is about 1.5 seconds in real life, and with a night like night 1 where only Bonnie is active, and at the same time during my playthrough, which you can see over on my 2nd channel, Dxtr Black, I actually never even had Bonnie come to my door and I was playing Raid Shadow Legends the whole time. It just leads to this night feeling like a slog. But after making it to 6 AM, we complete the night and we can talk about the post-night 1 minigame, which may just be one of the most shocking things I've ever seen in my life. During this minigame, we have to take apart Bonnie because there's been complaints of a bad odor coming from him. We start by opening his head, removing his arms, and cracking open his torso. Removing the plate, we see this. That's right. We actually get to see the corpse of one of the missing children stuffed inside of Bonnie. Truly one of the most gruesome things I've ever seen in a FNAF game before. I don't think any other game that I know of has ever actually directly shown you the bodies of the children. So needless to say, seeing this was crazy. After that shocking reveal, we get a very odd cutscene. A large amount of words are said, but I can't really make out most of it. I'll play it here with subtitles of what I could make out, but I'll need your guys' help in the comments to decipher everything.
But even yet I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker, and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, louder every moment. Do you mark me well?
Night 2, here we are. Let's just say action from these robots picks up quite a bit on this night. Night 2 only introduces one new threat, that being Chica, as I'm sure you could have guessed. And I'm gonna be honest, Chica brings up a really big glaring flaw that this game has. That being that the gameplay is boring as fuck. But let's explain what Chica does first. Chica will move around the cameras until making her way to your second door. Once she approaches, you can flash your light to check she's there, and if she is, hold the door closed until you hear her go away. This is also the first night I actually had Bonnie attack me, and something I noticed about these two is just how long it takes for both of them to leave your door. It's like a solid 10 seconds, at least. Which, yes, I know the phone guy said, but I didn't think he literally meant it. But can you notice the issue this game already has? Both Bonnie and Chica do the exact same thing. And while sure, you could argue that Bonnie and Chica do the same thing in a lot of games, but when the cast of characters is so small, I think that should make you more inclined to make everyone do something unique. This franchise has been around for over a decade. I would like to see the community do something different, and I feel like this game tries to hide the fact that everything is the same. Sure, you have 3 doors, but 2 of them are just a close them when someone is there mechanic, and the other is a play dead mechanic, which by the way is literally exactly the same as holding the door closed, except there's no animation, the screen just turns black. And this is what I mean. It feels like the game is trying to make you think that Bonnie has a different mechanic from Chica because it calls it something different. But in reality, you're just holding control for both of them, so it feels a bit disingenuous. But on the other hand, the character AI has definitely ramped up on this night. During night 1, I was never attacked by Bonnie the entire time. This time around, I was attacked by him a good handful of times, and Chica tried to rail me a couple of times too. So at least during this night, I couldn't play another game at the exact same time like I could on night 1, which is a good sign of progress. Oh yeah, I should probably mention the phone call on this night too, since it is pretty interesting. It seems like a previous night guard was able to intercept the phone's connection. Don't ask how, just accept it. He talks about how the robots are out to kill. We already knew that. And he explains Foxy and Freddy's mechanics, which is good since the phone guy on night 1 cut out before he could finish talking about Freddy and how he worked. I'm obviously not going to tell you how to deal with Freddy and Foxy right now since they aren't even active at this point, so let's just move on to the post-night 2 minigame. Something I want to quickly preface is that technically these are not post-night minigames, they're technically pre-night minigames, but I'm so used to talking about the minigames after talking about the night. Oh, just know that this minigame I'm about to talk about isn't a post-night 2 minigame, but is really a pre-night 3 minigame. Who really cares though? It's all in the same order. In this game, we play as a very slow, fat child. Not based. The most horrendous, creepy-looking 8-bit Spring Bonnie I've ever seen in my life appears to tell us he has a gift for us. A very special one. We follow him through 2 rooms and see a gift box on the ground, but Spring Bonnie is nowhere in sight. Upon approaching the box, Spring Bonnie sprints at Mach 46 in our direction and presumably murks us, ending the minigame. So, not nearly as interesting as last night's minigame, but maybe this showed what happened just before what we saw in that last minigame. Or who knows, maybe this is one of the other dead children altogether. Right now it's hard to say, but let's continue on to night 3. On night 3, I was expecting one new character to be introduced, since it seems we're only going to be getting the 4 characters from the first FNAF game. Introducing one every night makes sense to me. But no, we have 2 threats to talk about on this night. So let's start with the least interesting one, Freddy. Freddy works, quite literally, in the exact same way as Bonnie and Chica, with the exact same attack pattern and the exact same way of dealing with him. He will attack your 3rd door, except he doesn't like to be flashed by your light. So if you ever do, he'll kill you instantly, even if you close the door directly afterwards, which doesn't make sense. So this brings up a question of how you're supposed to know when Freddy is there. Well, this game tells you that you'll be able to hear Freddy breathing when he's outside of your door. However, I was unable to hear the breathing, ever. Or, if I was able to hear the breathing, I was unable to tell it was breathing, since there are so many other fucking random noises that happen constantly throughout this game. You wanna know why I never heard the breathing sound effect? I checked the code of this game myself. And yeah, it's literally never programmed to play the breathing sound. Here is the code for the breathing sound. You see that start sound, pick random 1 to 4? There are 4 breathing sounds, and this plays one of those at random. You'll notice that these 2 blocks aren't attached to anything, and I never moved them. By the way, there is nothing that triggers these 2 blocks. This is all of the code for Freddy reaching your door. You'll notice a few weird things about it. That it starts by running a broadcast for Bonnie arriving. Spoiler alert, I have no idea why it's called Bonnie Arrive. The only thing this broadcast does is run a function in another sprite that plays footstep sounds. The other weird thing you'll notice about this code is that, yes, it actually does start sound, but not sounds 1 to 4. Instead, sounds 5 to 10. Well, what are sounds 5 to 10? You might ask. Well, they're footstep sounds. All of them. Sounds 5 through 10 are all footstep sounds. But why the fuck would you even need to play footstep sounds if right before that block you have the Bonnie Arrive broadcast that plays fucking footstep sounds? And why are there breathing sounds in this game that are never used, pretty much making it impossible to know when Freddy is ever at your door? I have no idea. And yes, by the way, I checked everything in the AI management code, and nowhere besides those 2 blocks that are detached and never called that I showed earlier does the code ever call for sounds 1 through 4 to ever be played. I have no idea what's going on. But worry not, I found a strategy for dealing with Freddy. We know because of the Bonnie Arrive script that whenever any character shows up at the door, we'll hear footsteps. Well, whenever I heard footsteps, I'd check Bonnie's door and Chica's door, since I could safely flash my light on them. If I didn't see either of those 2, then I'd know it has to be Freddy who's at my door, and, fun fact, Freddy doesn't appear to make footstep sound cues when he leaves either, so that's just great. Anyways, let's talk about the other threat this night introduces, Foxy. Foxy is pretty simple, but he is different from the other 3, thankfully. Foxy is in Pirate's Cove. Occasionally, throughout the night, he'll start humming like he tends to do. When he does, all you have to do is go to his camera and flash him with your camera light a few times and he'll close the curtain. So he doesn't even really do what normal Foxy does. Not that that's an issue, just thought I'd point it out. So, here's what the core gameplay loop boils down to right now. Start the night, literally sit there and do nothing until you hear Foxy humming or footstep sounds. Deal with Foxy if you hear him, and if you hear footstep sounds, check Bonnie, then Chica. Deal with either of them if you see them, and if you don't see them, close Freddy's door until you hear the next sound cue. Repeat for 8 fucking minutes, since each minute in this game is a second and a half, and you'll beat the night. Meaning we can move on to the post-night 3 minigame, technically pre-night 4 minigame. This is just a cutscene, but a creepy one at that. The marionette box opens, and the marionette crawls out with the most disgusting sound I've ever heard. She offers us a gift box and says that if we take it, we'll be gifted new life, and that he'll never be able to hurt us again. This tells me that we're the soul of a child in this cutscene, and of course, the marionette is reanimating us. We accept the gift, and the marionette crawls back into its sticky-sounding box, and we move on to Night 4. Night 4 adds nothing new to the gameplay loop. However, it is where I noticed a plethora of bugs in this game so horrific it's hard to describe. And pretty much every single bug stems from Freddy and the fact he will literally just ignore your door. He will also sometimes not play his footstep sound cue when he gets to the door. Oh yeah, and this part isn't a bug, but multiple characters can attack at the same time, guaranteeing that you lose the night because of RNG.
That sounded rather loud. Good thing I went and checked. I said, good thing I went and checked. Fuck! Okay, well, you can't put Bonnie and Freddy there at the same time, dude. That's literally impossible. Impossible to deal with. Really, bro? Bonnie. Fuck off. What the fuck, dude? This game fucking reeks. Holy shit. It's a broken fucking mess. So yeah, doesn't that just look like a ton of fun? Because it wasn't. Anyways, since there isn't actually anything new to talk about, we can move on to Night 5, which actually does introduce something pretty sick.
But of course, before we talk about it, we need to talk about the pre-Night 5 minigame. It's a pretty shitty, boring minigame. It's literally just the opening to FNAF 2. We're in the POV of Freddy, and we can look back and forth at Bonnie and Chica. Nothing super crazy or groundbreaking happens. We don't even see the marionette like we do in FNAF 2. Alright, who cares? Now we can move on to Night 5. Well, let's just say that Night 5 is something different, acting as this game's boss fight night. Every character we've seen up until this point has been disabled, and we hear the doors to the entrance of the building open, only to see none other than William Afton inside of the Spring Bonnie suit enter the building. That's right, the boss fight is with Afton. Why is he here? I have no idea. Is it ever explained to us why he wants to come kill us? Just a security guard that he himself likely hired? Not at all. But are we gonna complete it nonetheless? Yes. Honestly, calling this night a boss fight is pretty generous, as Afton does not do anything interesting or different from the rest of the characters. He can attack 2 of your 3 doors, and I'll talk about why in a bit. He can attack the 2 doors that, well, actually have doors. Obviously, when he's there, just close the door and he'll leave. However, Afton is faster than every other character we've seen so far, so tracking him on the cameras to tell which door it is he actually went to is really important, since you won't have time to check both doors without him killing you. Once again, like Freddy, even if the fucking door is closed. Hello? Ah, bitch! The door's closed, dude. The bugs in this game, they're unbearable. They're unbearable. Unbearable, dude. The door was closed. Now, you may be wondering, why doesn't Afton attack the door that Bonnie attacks? The one with no door? Well, that would be because it'd be impossible to defend yourself. You might think that that would make it the perfect door for him to attack, but from a gameplay standpoint, you really can't have him attack that door, now can you? Because he's not going to believe that you're already dead, since he's a human and not a stupid fucking robot. So this once again brings up my point, why even make the first door's mechanic playing dead? Why not just make it another door? It would literally function the exact same way, plus it would give Afton another means of attack and make his boss fight actually make a little bit more sense and slightly more difficult. But let's even look past all of that. What happens once you beat the night? Well, get this. Afton enters the fucking office anyways. So like, what is the point of whatever we just did? Clearly he has the power to be able to get into your office regardless. This kind of feels more like what we did throughout the night didn't really matter, which, by the way, the nights in this game are way too fucking long for how boring the mechanics are. A game like Next Week at Freddy's can have really long nights because there's a lot of variables that can change throughout the night to make it interesting for a long time. But when every single character in the game is dealt with in the exact same way, 8-minute nights are just completely unnecessary and make the game feel like a drag. But like I said, after you complete the night, Afton gets into the office and we get the following cutscene.
I found you at last. Did you really think you could hide? Did you really believe that you could cower away from me? I own you. I own this place. This is my kingdom, and I shall take you to my hell.
So there you have it. The marionette appears from the fucking ceiling. I guess she was just hiding up there the whole night, and she sets off the spring locks in Afton's suit. Which, by the way, once again, I have no idea why he's even wearing the spring lock suit. The robots are not even activated on this night, so it's not like he's trying to disguise himself from them. If anything, wearing the suit you killed them in would probably just piss them off. I'm not really sure. William dies in front of our eyes, and the Fazbear tomb comes to a close. Overall, I think it's pretty clear that there's a lot I see wrong with this game. However, I don't think it's necessarily bad. It's clear a lot more care went into the storytelling and the designs, which I can appreciate.
What Five Nights at Freddy's game do you think is the scariest? Maybe you think Five Nights at Freddy's 3 or FNAF 4 because of their atmosphere. But what if we branch out into fan games? Maybe you think Juniors because of its disgusting and terrifying art style. Maybe you think A Shadow Over Freddy's because of its free roam mechanics.
I have recently played a FNAF fan game that I personally feel is the scariest one ever designed, but probably not for the reason you think. Today, we'll be covering Five Nights to Remember, a FNAF fan game where the animatronics stalk you like no other FNAF game does before. Let's waste no time and jump right in. Night 1 starts off strong and gets down to the basics as usual. And the moment I opened up the cameras and saw Fredbear and Spring Bonnie on stage, I already knew that this game was getting a Dxtr White video.
Cool. And management really wants me to help you.
These look real. These look actually real. What the fuck?
The designs of the characters in this game aren't necessarily anything to write home about. We've seen Fredbear and Spring Bonnie designs 1,000 times before. But the way they're used in this game, in combination with poses and lighting, are honestly some of the creepiest pieces of art I've ever seen. They almost look real. It's almost like they took a picture of two actual animatronics and thrown them into the game, and I love it. But the creepy and realistic poses don't end there. Every single camera frame with these guys just feels uncomfortable to look at in a good way.
Oh, I don't know how much I like that. No, I don't like that at all, actually. That's fucking creepy. I'm not gonna lie, usually FNAF games don't creep me out, but that is fucking creepy as shit.
You'll notice as you play that the characters in this game move pretty quickly, which is something I actually enjoy. Most of the time in FNAF games, the first 2 nights are very uneventful, and in some instances, the characters never even make it to your office by the time the night ends. Once Spring Bonnie made it to my office, I knew 100% I couldn't ignore a white video on this game. Take a look for yourself. Oh my fucking god! Play the fucking tape and back up.
He didn't get sent back to fucking...
Go the fuck away!
Fucking yuck! He was busting it down. Did you see that? He was shaking his cock and shit. I saw him. I saw you do that, bro. You whipped it out. It was dangling all over my fucking desk and shit. It slapped a straw on my drink, bro.
The sheer feeling of fear I felt in this moment is something I've never felt before playing a FNAF game. Fredbear and Spring Bonnie stalk you throughout this game, taking peeks into your office to check if you're distracted. If you look closely, you'll actually be able to see them before they peek in, hiding in the safety of the darkness. Flashing your light at them makes them hide around a corner, but they don't give up there. They'll wait for a moment, and eventually peer back in to check on you, and they will never leave until they can get the jump on you. The moment you aren't locked in on what they're doing, the moment you check the cameras for too long, the moment you turn away, they jump into your office and attack. Now I have to take a break from being dramatic to talk about how this game actually plays, and why the rabbit on your screen right now is currently shaking its dick in your face. Thankfully, this game doesn't use a power system, something I'm noticing a lot more recent FNAF games have been turning away from, which I actually really like because power systems make me want to stick my penis in a badger hole. However, there still is an important resource in the game that is limited: your tape player. When an animatronic is geeking out in your office, you'll have to quickly lift up your tape player and play the restaurant music. This will trick the animatronic into going back on stage to perform. The tape player only has a track that's so long, so you can't just let it play out throughout the whole night. You'll also notice that the rewind button on the tape player has been completely removed. What a nice touch, guys. Thanks. Fredbear works much in the same way as Spring Bonnie, except instead of attacking from your hall, he attacks from the curtains in front of you. You'll be able to see him quietly open them to look in at you. Once again, some of the creepiest shit I've ever seen come out of a FNAF game.
Get the fuck out! Bro, you can see him real time stepping in. That's so fucked. Stop, bro! Fuck, dude, I see him standing there.
As of night 1, there's only one other threat to deal with: HIM, also known as Cake Bear. I'm not sure what the HIM stands for, by the way, and the wiki doesn't tell me. Cake Bear acts as this game's marionette, having a music box for you to keep track of on camera too. I usually hate music boxes, but this one honestly isn't too bad, and I actually never once died to Cake Bear throughout my entire playthrough, which you could watch on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Rather than having to wind the music box like in FNAF 2, instead all you have to do is click it once, and it'll start winding by itself. It's a small change, but a change we all needed to have in our lives. The music box goes down pretty slowly, so you really shouldn't have any problems with it as long as you check the cameras every now and again. Night 2 is actually when Fredbear becomes active, but since I already explained him, I'm going to take this time to talk about one of my favorite things in this game: skipping phone calls. That may sound stupid to you, but if you play FNAF games, this is something that will make you cream in your pants when you hear it. Unlike most FNAF games, where you play out the night while the phone call is happening, in Five Nights to Remember, the animatronics and music box actually don't become active until the phone call is complete, giving you the freedom to just relax and listen to the phone call without getting anally bombarded by freaky-out robots. Which also means if you die on a night and restart and skip the phone call, rather than having to wait in silence for the animatronics to become active, when skipping the phone call, they actually will just immediately start. Again, this is something so small, but holy shit, it makes me happy. The Radiance team are some of the most clever people on the face of the earth. I would make out with every one of you. Hit my line. Something else I should mention, after completing each night, you'll get to play a basic catching minigame, where you need to catch good objects and avoid purple objects. If you get a good score, you'll be rewarded with an upgrade to your flashlight, which will cause animatronics at your doors to be stunned for longer when used. A FNAF game with upgrades. This is so fucking cool. Night 3 brings on what is probably this game's biggest threat, Vision Foxy. But before I cover him, I want to cover the other character added in this night, Vision Chica. Vision Chica works exactly the same as Phantom Chica does in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. She has a chance to appear on any camera, and you can't look at her for too long. If you do, she'll disable your camera for a short amount of time, which will leave you vulnerable to Cake Bear and Vision Foxy, who we'll cover now. Throughout the night, you'll be able to hear Foxy humming. When you hear him doing this, he will appear on either camera 8 or camera 1, aka the two cameras that lead directly to your office. You'll have to quickly figure out which camera he's on, and when you find him, you'll see him sprinting down the hallway. You will then need to pull down the cameras faster than I pull down my pants when I see Toy Chica, and hold your flashlight down on the doorway he's running towards. You'll be able to see him peer in at you, which is just so fucking cool and creepy, and if you keep the light held on him long enough, he will eventually go away. While this mechanic isn't by itself difficult, I'm sure you could guess that in combination with the other characters, Foxy is probably going to be your main run killer throughout this game. Something really great to note about Foxy, however, if Bonnie or Fredbear are at one of your doors, you'll know which camera Foxy will attack at, because he won't be able to come to a door that's already occupied. So keeping track of where everyone is and stalling them as long as possible can actually be used to your advantage. Night 4 is when this game really starts to ramp up in difficulty, and is also where you get to hear me complain. Yay! The part you've all been waiting for! Wouldn't be a Dxtr White video if I didn't lose my goddamn mind, now would it? Night 4 introduces Vision Freddy and Vision Bonnie, the two characters that make me want to rip a baby owl into 40 pieces. Let's start with the most infuriating of the two, Vision Freddy. Vision Freddy has a random chance to appear in either one of your two doorways. He himself will never attack, but he will absolutely fuck up your tempo while you're trying to play. My strategy tended to be wind the music box, flash both doorways, and repeat. However, you're not allowed to flash Freddy. If you do, he will disable your flashlight in that doorway, which will obviously lead to your death. Oh shit, I was supposed to flash him. Oh yeah, okay, I see. I get it. I gotta be really fucking careful. I can't just grossly flash my lights. I also want to mention that this doesn't make even a lick of sense at all. I have one flashlight. How the hell did he disable it only on one side of my office? I can't even wrap my mind around that concept, but whatever. Vision Freddy will lead you to have all sorts of problems during your playthrough. Not only at this point will you have grown accustomed to constantly flashing your doorways without thinking, you've most certainly grown accustomed to flashing your doorways when you see something. And to now have something punish you for doing so is absolutely brutal. Now let's switch gears like Luffy over to Vision Bonnie. I said Freddy is worse than this, but that in no way means Bonnie isn't worse than a car accident. Bonnie has a chance to appear in the computer monitor on your desk at any time. Usually, the most inconvenient fucking time possible. When you see Bonnie on your screen, you will quickly have to find him on one of your cameras and stare at him. This is a mechanic in FNAF games I cannot fucking stand. I'm not totally sure why I hate it so much, but if I had to guess, I'd say it's because of stupid ass fucking geeked up Sheriff Slithers from Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. That goofy ass snake has destroyed my will to live. If you don't find Bonnie fast enough, I'm sure you could guess what happens. Your ass is on the menu at Golden Corral and Bonnie is hopping up and down in line like a fat ass waiting to chomp down on your muff. Before I dive into Night 5, I should quickly explain what's been going on throughout the phone calls up until this point. As the nights have gone on, the phone guy has been telling us about how the company has been wanting to switch to spring-lock animatronics. Oh boy, we all know how this turns out. On one of the earlier nights, we actually see that Fredbear and Spring Bonnie are tossed into the back room and no longer start on stage, and that the new spring-lock animatronics can be seen on one of the cameras instead. Fun fact, these spring locks never attack you. I jeebed in my pants when I saw them for the first time because I thought I was about to get bent over backwards and fucked in front of all of the animatronics by them. Well, on night 4, we're told that someone will be testing the spring lock costumes in the morning for the first time. And on night 5, you'll notice we have access to a brand spanking new camera, camera 9. On this camera, we can see the very spring lock costume, with the corpse of one of the workers still inside. We're told on this night by the phone guy that he was there when it happened, and that they followed the protocol perfectly, and this still happened. In this game, no, this corpse is not William Afton, just some random employee, but damn, this is probably one of the coolest moments I've seen come out of a FNAF game, and it would have never been this cool without the phone guy's amazing deliveries on his lines throughout the game. You can listen to each of them during my full playthrough on my second channel, Dxtr Black. But how does Night 5 play? Well, it's an everything night, something I've noticed becoming more common in newer FNAF games. I've noticed that a lot of FNAF games nowadays have a Night 5 that introduces a boss character to really show off the climax of their game with one final fight. I think this is pretty cool, but I'm also a little nervous that this concept will become stale quickly, but I guess only time will tell. The Victim is a new animatronic active in this night, freely attacking your office whenever he feels like it. Unlike Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, you will not be able to stall him at your door, because he doesn't give a fuck about that door. He thinks that door's a bitch. I know, he told me. Deal with him in the same way you deal with Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, by using the tape player. I said this night was an everything night, and when I use the term everything night, I mean one character taking on the role of every character you've seen so far. Golden Freddy does exactly this, or this game just calls him the Yellow Bear, taking the role of every other animatronic we've seen up until this point. The extra addition of the Victim really drives up the difficulty of this night. The pressure is high the whole time, and you will barely have any room to breathe. But with all of the cool shit we've seen, we need to take a step back. And I need you to all take a breath with me, because what I'm about to talk about next will make you shit yourself. So just please, pause the video, get a glass of water, and get ready for me to talk about the stupidest thing you've ever seen in your entire life. Night 6 is a remake of an old FNAF game called One Night to Remember, and oh my god, is it dumb. Let's talk about it. One Night to Remember features an interesting cast of characters, to say the least, with characters we all know and love, like Fredbear, Spring Bonnie, Plushtrap, the original, Corpse, Stan, Mini Stans, Ben. Who the fuck is Ben? I'll go over this part quickly for the sake of your sanity. In your office, you have a music button. It's pretty much just the tape player from the main game, except you can't choose when to turn it off. It kinda just turns off whenever. If you see Fredbear at your door, you'll have to play the music to make him go away. If you see Spring Bonnie at your door, you'll have to play the music to make him go away. If you see the corpse at your door, you'll have to play the music to make him go away. If you see Stan on your ceiling, can you guess what you need to do? That's exactly right. You have to play the music to make him go away. That's the end of that running joke, thankfully. Mini stands don't directly kill you. Instead, if you sit in your office for too long without pulling up your camera, they'll make Stan move faster. Plushtrap will occasionally run past your window. If he does, quickly pull up your camera, and I guess he fucking dies for some reason. Ben is a G. If he shows up in your office, you have to play peekaboo with him and cover your eyes until he goes away. Ben has no concept of object permanence. He's 2. Finally, the original. He slowly moves around your cameras to your office. If he gets to your office, you die no matter what. even if you play the music, which is bullshit. If you stare him down on the cameras, it will stall him, making him approach your office much slower. Do that for 6 hours and congrats, you've beaten this game's weird-ass Night 6. Hope you're proud of yourself because we've still got Custom Night to talk about. Usually I don't talk about Custom Night, but this Custom Night has some new characters, and one of them I bet you fucking freaks will goon over. Thanks Radiance team for making me put goon bait on my screen. All 4 new characters are unlockable by completing Custom Night challenges. If you complete the 6th night of the game, you'll unlock Stan. Side note, I know that Night 6 is not a Custom Night challenge, hop off my pecker dog. Stan is pretty simple. Starting in your office, he will slowly try to drop down onto your head like any spider would do. Use the bug spray on your desk to keep him away. If you don't, Dunyan rings for you, bro. Also, side note, why would we use bug spray on a spider? Spider's not an insect. It's an arachnid. You know what? That's not important. If you complete the Imaginary Night challenge, you'll unlock Ben. Ben will randomly appear in your office and try to take a picture of you to post on his OnlyFans. When he does, you must quickly look left and right to prevent him from getting a good angle. And trust me, Ben loves his angles.
You take a picture with your ass out and your back bent in with your pussy barely peeking through from a low angle with your face in it, winking with your tongue out and your feet in it, and your arches exposed and your toes clenched and your torso at 3/4 rotation with your side boob and your nipples just out of sight with a choker on and your panties around your waist with the middle pulled to the side.
Beating the Nightmare Challenge will unlock Bite, a character that will only move on the cameras if your tape is playing music, giving you reason to stall characters in the hall for as long as you can. If he gets to your office, it's 100% game over and there's nothing you can do about it. Finally, I have to talk about the edging material. If you complete the old school challenge, you will unlock Bunny. Bunny sits on your desk and seduces you. All you need to do to get rid of her is boop her nose. While she is seducing you, all of the other animatronics get jealous of you and become disgustingly more aggressive. Alright, editor, get her off the fucking screen now! I don't need an army of gooners jeebing all over their iPads, bro! Thank you. And with that, that's all Five Nights to Remember has to offer. This is honestly probably the scariest FNAF fan game I've ever played. Throughout the entirety of it, I felt in danger. I felt like me using the light to push them away from the door was actually a last-ditch effort to save myself. It's a feeling of dread that no other game has ever been able to give me, and I think that's pretty neat. What's the coolest thing you've ever seen a FNAF game do? Has there ever been a moment where you're playing a game and something is revealed that absolutely blows your mind? I've recently been suggested a FNAF game that did exactly that, and I'm very excited to share it with you all. Today, I'll be talking about Fredbear's Fright, an amazing FNAF fan game made in 2017 by Garrett McKay. This game is heavily tied to the original Five Nights at Freddy's lore, with a twist at the end you're not going to want to miss. So I'd recommend sticking around to the end because its ending is actually crazy. Let's not waste any more time and jump right into it. Fredbear's Fright opens with a cutscene that takes place in the office from FNAF 1. The screen turns upside down and I'm actually not totally sure why that happens. If you guys know why, let me know in the comments. Afterwards, we're sent to the menu and we can jump straight in to night 1. Something really interesting about this game is that it actually takes place in the original Freddy Fazbear's location with a few tweaks. You'll notice the only door you have is your left one, the right door being replaced with a small vent on the ground that can also be closed via door. You can see above the vent a panel with numbers on it, but we'll get into what that is later. Additionally, on the ceiling there's a lever you can pull that causes water to sprinkle into the office. I will get to that in a moment also. The animatronics in this game are mostly original aside from the 2 main ones, those being Dismantled Spring Bonnie and Dismantled Fredbear. We'll talk about Fredbear later because on night 1 only Dismantled Spring Bonnie and scrapped Mousiki? I'm just gonna say Mousiki are active, so let's talk about them. Spring Bonnie acts as one of the main antagonists in Fredbear's Fright, and will probably be the character you see the most of in your playthrough. And if you take a look at him, you'll notice he is absolutely big back. This motherfucker never leaves the line at the Golden Corral. He starts on the main stage and moves towards your office. He moves to your right side to attempt to enter your vent. You'll be able to tell when he enters your vent because you'll hear the vent banging. Unlike shitty ass, fuck ass Five Nights at Freddy's 2 vent noises, there are actually different noises for different circumstances so that you can actually tell what's going on, which I'm sure everyone can appreciate. When Bonnie, or any other character for that matter, first enters your vent, you will hear exactly 2 vent bangs. Once he's in your vent, just close the vent door. After this, there are 2 other possible vent noises that will be heard depending on which night you're on. If you hear just a single bang, that means whatever is in your vent has left, and you're safe to open the vent door. However, if you hear more than 2 vent bangs, that means that whatever was in your vent just swapped places with someone else, and you should keep your vent closed. This is so incredibly helpful, it cannot go unnoticed. Because of this sound system, it doesn't make you rely on the cameras to tell the location of animatronics that attack from the vent. This is miles better than what FNAF 2 does, where every single possible movement in the vents uses the exact same fucking sound. And if you're on a super busy night like 10-20 mode, the vent noises will actually start to overlap each other, making it borderline impossible to tell what the hell is going on. Now let's talk about scrapped Mouseikie. Mouseikie is only ever visible on 2 cameras, camera 7 and camera 6. He will start on camera 7, and let me say, he looks scary as fuck, I'm not even gonna lie. He will move to camera 6, and when he moves again, he will disappear from the cameras entirely. Shortly after, you'll be able to find him at your left door when using the door light. What the fuck? All you have to do is simply close the door, and he'll promptly piss off. Mouseikie will almost never be a real problem until later nights with a certain character I'll talk about later. Get to 6 AM and congrats, you're ready for night 2. After most nights in Fredbear's Frights, you will have to play an 8-bit classic FNAF minigame. The first minigame has you play as Fredbear on a stage with Spring Bonnie. You'll sing to the children for a short amount of time before the curtains close, and Purple Guy will come on stage and presumably turn the animatronics off. Oh boy, Pussy Guy is going to do something devious, I already know it! Anyways, on to night 2, which surprisingly doesn't have any of the animatronics that were active last night present. This night introduces 4 new characters: Dismantled Fredbear, the Hand Puppets, and Prototype. No, not the Prototype from Poppy Playtime. I don't know why I assumed you think it was. Probably because all you chronic gooners are brain rotted. Yeah, we'll go with that. Dismantled Freddy is one of the easiest animatronics to deal with. However, he can be pretty annoying when he attacks at a non-optimal time. Fredbear begins on stage just like Bonnie, he'll make his way to your office. But unlike every other character, you cannot prevent him from entering your office. He enters a room that you can't see on your cameras that's located behind your office. Once there, he'll wait for you to lift up your camera. You'll be able to hear that he's entered your office when you hear 2 thumps. Upon pulling your camera down, you'll be able to see him standing in front of you menacingly, and as tempted as you might be to immediately become physically affectionate with him, I encourage you to rethink your choices because you have to remember that he's a robot and not an actual living being that you can have relations with. This is where the sprinkler system becomes important. On the bottom of your screen, you'll see a water meter, indicating how much water you have left. When you pull the lever on the ceiling, water will start to rain down and decrease your meter. It's very important you don't use this water up because it's directly how you deal with Fredbear. The phone guy tells us that water will mess with the animatronics because, no shit, they're robots. He really didn't have to explain that one to us, but okay. So when Fredbear is in your office, just spray some water on him and he'll eventually go away. Something I want to mention is how unlikely it is that you'll run out of water. Even on the harder nights, I never had to deal with Fredbear more than like 3 times, and it doesn't take much water to make him go away. Safe to say, Fredbear is never a character you'll really have to worry about. That is, considering he doesn't show up when someone is at your door or enters your vent. You see, when Fredbear is in your office, you will be unable to interact with any buttons in your office besides the water lever. This means no closing the door, checking the hall light, or closing the vent door. I'm sure you can see where this could become a big problem. Let's move on to the hand puppets. There are 2 of them, a Spring Bonnie puppet and a Fredbear puppet, both of them being on the same camera. However, these 2 puppets move separately from one another, really acting as 2 animatronics. However, they function the same. Both act exactly the same as Spring Bonnie, going to the right vent and attempting to enter your office. You deal with them the same way as you do Bonnie, just by shutting the vent. The same vent noise system still applies with these 2. And my theory for their existence is purely to force you to listen and understand the vent noises. which is something I think is actually really cool. The final character to talk about is Prototype. Oh boy, Prototype. Prototype acts as the Foxy of this game. Similar to him, he has several phases on Cam 1B. He will slowly move through these phases, and just like Foxy, can be slowed down by watching him on the cameras. Once he leaves Cam 1B, you know he's on his way to your office. Oh, fuck! The endoskeleton! It's on the move, bro! And you'll have to quickly close your left door. But there is a problem you'll probably notice. The game mentions that you'll know the Prototype has reached your door when he pounds on it, just like Foxy does. Except the only problem with that is, at least for me, no pounding sound is ever played. I never had a sound cue from Prototype. Instead, what I had to do was check the cameras to see if he had gone back to camera 1B. This wasn't really a huge issue for me overall, since I was constantly checking the camera throughout the night anyways, but I did probably end up losing way more power than I ever needed to. Something I want to mention about the power system, by the way. It's incredibly forgiving. You'll notice it decreases pretty slowly even when you're using a lot of power draining systems at a time. Power is usually something you'll never have to really worry about. Obviously, if you keep your doors closed all night, you're going to have a problem, but if you're playing normally, you probably won't even end up thinking about your power. But now, let's talk about Night 2's post-night minigame. In this game, you play as Foxy, dancing for the kids on stage before the curtain close, and Purpley Warpley fucks his shit up, ending the minigame. That's really it. Time for Night 3. Night 3 includes Bonnie, Prototype, Mousakey, the hand puppets, and a brand new character who is incredibly stress-inducing, Scrapped Fredbear. Scrapped Fredbear acts as an incredibly unique character that will cause more anxiety than driving right next to a semi-truck. Scrapped Freddy technically isn't a threat to you, at least lore-wise he isn't. According to the help menu, Scrapped Freddy doesn't actually want to hurt you. Scrapped Freddy works a lot like Golden Call from Dormitibus. He'll wander around the camera until he finds a phone. When he does, he'll call your office and give you a code to deactivate his AI. This is, again, according to his help menu, because he doesn't want to attack you, which I think is really interesting. When he calls your office and lists this code, you will have to use the number pad I mentioned earlier in this video to punch in the numbers. You don't have to press them as he's saying them, but once he's done reading off the code, he will hang up after a short amount of time, and if you don't have the code typed in by the time he hangs up, your ass is on the line and he's about to snort that shit. Typically, he gives you 4 numbers, but I've had him give me 5 or sometimes even 6. This can become very stressful, because you'll need to keep track of everything else going on, so you don't really have the time to put everything on pause just to focus on the code. So you'll have to keep repeating the code in your head so you don't forget as you're dealing with all of the other problems. Ooh.
5, 7, 4, 2, 5.
You bitch! I was typing that, you ass! But if you can handle all that bullshit at once, you're home clear of Night 3 and can move on to Night 4. But first, we have the post-Night 3 minigame to talk about. In this game, you play as Fredbear again and have to deliver cake to 3 children. After doing so, you walk over to a door and get yanked inside by Purple Guy and his little grubby dirty ass fingers. Fucking yuck, am I right? But now it's time for Night 4, and let me tell you, this night is super fucking cool. The night starts off normal, with every character we've seen thus far active. However, Phone Guy tells us that Prototype has done something terrible and doesn't explain what.
Prototype is doing something terrible. Tonight has been very good for me.
Shortly after, you can hear something on his side of the line scream, and the call abruptly ends. The night continues as normal, and throughout this night, you'll notice that the Prototype is nowhere to be found. Where the fuck is the Prototype? Hello? At 1 a.m., every other animatronic in the building disappears, and the real threat of this night shows itself. Fright. Fright is the final boss of Fredbear's Fright, acting as one final battle. Fright is presumably the Prototype, but you'll notice that he's made up of pieces of all of the other animatronics, which leads me to believe that the reason they all disappeared is because the Prototype destroyed and mangled all of them, making them part of him. You know what? Maybe this Prototype does share a lot of similarities to the Prototype from Poppy Playtime. Fright can be tricky, and it's not because his mechanics are particularly difficult. but instead because of how incredibly fast he is. Fright can attack from both the left door and right vent. He will only be visible on camera 6 and camera 4B. If you see him on camera 6, he's more than likely about to attack your door. The moment he disappears from the camera, very quickly he will be at your door. Close it as fast as you can because you will not have much time. You'll have to keep checking the cameras to figure out when he's left your door, and when he does, it won't be long until he attacks you again. If you see him on camera 4B, he's about to attack your vent. Same thing with camera 6. When he leaves, you'll soon hear him pound on your vent, and you'll quickly need to close it. Again, this night isn't hard because of what Fright does, it's hard because of how fast he does it. You'll need to be on your toes all night and be precise while also keeping your cool. This night acts as a very fun and quick night. It's incredibly satisfying to play once you get into the groove, which is something I really like about this game. It's very satisfying to play because it's balanced very nicely. If you can control your nerves until 6 AM, the night ends. But not how you might think. Rather than getting your 6 AM screen, Fright reaches your office, and there's no way to stop this from happening. You get jump scared by him, and a cutscene begins. The cutscene looks to take place in the original FNAF 1 location before the reworks to the building that we've seen in the game. Whoever we're playing with holds up a phone and makes a call. It's at this moment we get what I feel is one of the coolest scenes from any FNAF game I've ever played. It's revealed that we're the phone guy from FNAF 1, and we start giving the call you can hear on night 4 of Five Nights at Freddy's 1, which of course is the infamous death of his character, except this time we see it from his point of view.
Yeah, I always wondered what was in all those empty heads.
Dude, what? What?
Oh no.
Oh damn! Yo, that was fucking sick! Dude, we were playing as the phone guy, you're joking! And this is how night 4 concludes. This is actually so fucking cool. This reveal right here is the main reason I chose to make a video about this game. It's so simple, but I absolutely love it when games have fun reveals like this. But would you believe me if I said Night 5 was even cooler? Let's talk about it. Night 5 takes place in the unmodified FNAF 1 building, with us playing as the phone guy again. But this time, we're in the back room stuffed in a suit. This night actually takes place sometime after he made the call on night 4, revealing that Freddy never killed him in the office, instead dragging him to the back room and stuffing him into one of the empty spring-lock suits that he wanted Michael to check on. This night consists of phone guy trying to survive until 6 AM so that someone can come and rescue him in the morning from the suit he's trapped in. You'll notice that this night starts at 2 AM instead of 12. This is because it takes place technically during night 4, which he made his final call during. So of course, some time has passed. This is so fucking cool! I can't get enough of this. But let's talk about the gameplay of this night. You have to prevent the spring lock suit you're sitting in from closing by holding space. Throughout the night, Freddy and Bonnie will be checking in on you by opening the door and watching you. Whenever either of them peek in, you'll have to stop holding space and play dead. Once they leave, you're free to continue. Additionally, you'll have frequent hallucinations that will require you to close your eyes by pressing shift. The hallucinations make very loud noises and closing your eyes blocks your vision. Fucking obviously. So, when you have your eyes closed, I'd let go of space, since you won't be able to tell when Freddy or Bonnie enter. If they see that you're alive, they'll definitely gobble you up like the little gobble monsters they are. After surviving until 6 AM, the night ends, and we get one final post-night minigame. This final minigame requires us to press A. When we do, we see Purple Guy press a button that seemingly activates the 4 animatronics. They walk out from behind a curtain and are in much worse shape than we've seen them in previous minigames, actually appearing to look like their nightmare variants from FNAF 4. They follow Afton into a room with the locked box from Five Nights at Freddy's 4 with a key laying next to it. If you click this key, you'll actually be able to collect it. The game ends soon after, whether you grab the key or not, giving you the normal ending. So, how do you get the true ending? Well, as I'm sure you could have guessed, we need to find the second key and unlock that box we see in the minigame. But where is the second key? I don't ever remember seeing it up until this point. Well, that's because it's actually very out of the way. On any night from nights 1 to 4, if you go to camera 6 and click on the Freddy poster in the background, you'll be sent to a secret minigame. In this minigame, you play as Freddy and just have to move him across the screen and grab the key hanging from the ceiling. After you grab it, the minigame ends. Now, you might think you need to replay the 4th night minigame to open the box at the end, but that would actually be incorrect. Instead, we get the ability to open the box after we finish one final challenge, Insane Mode, which is accessed through the Extras menu. Insane Mode is exactly what you think it'd be, a high-pressure, difficult night where all characters are active. The only real problems of this night are Prototype and Scrapped Fredbear, because they have a pretty deadly combo when you have to take time to punch in Freddy's code while Prototype is having to move. Since you won't be able to watch and stall him enough to stop him from charging your door, most other characters aren't a huge problem. Just make sure you're really listening and paying attention to the vent noises so you know when you should have the vent closed and when it's safe to keep it open. After you beat Insane Mode, you will see the locked box. As long as you've collected both keys, you'll be able to undo both locks and see what's inside. After the box opens, the screen will start to glitch, and if you look closely, you'll actually be able to see 4 faces between the locks, presumably a reference to the 4 dead children. Finally, one last cutscene plays. On a desk, you'll be able to see what appears to be the newspaper we saw at the beginning of the game, with someone named Radio Man calling us. He says he thinks he might have a lead and asks us if we'd be willing to go to an unknown location by ourselves. He says there's no guarantee we'll be able to find him there, not knowing who he is or where there is. The call ends with Radio Man asking us to return his call as soon as we can. At first, I thought this was someone calling Michael Afton in reference to going to one of the Freddy locations to find and kill his father. Up until this point, it seemed that this game was heavily tied to the official games. But after doing some digging, I learned that this cutscene is actually a teaser to one of Garrett McKay's other games by the name of Fredbear and Friends Left to Rot. Crack cocaine. Have you ever thought about trying it? Have you ever tried it? I haven't. However, I might as well have. After playing the game I'll be talking about today, I would imagine that I was acting the same as someone who was on cocaina, booger, sugar, crack, white shit. What is said game, you may be asking? Well, the game I'll be talking about today is called Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. This game is really fucking hard. I called Mary's Arcade the Dark Souls of FNAF fan games. This is the Elden Ring. Granted, I will be the first to admit that I'm absolutely terrible at FNAF games, no doubt about it, but I struggled more with this one than with Mary's Arcade, so eat my nuts, it's harder. Graveyard Shift at Freddy's also shares one glaring similarity with another game I've covered on this channel, A Shadow Over Freddy's. That similarity being, the creator of the game has removed it from Game Jolt and finding it isn't very easy. You guys hated it when I called A Shadow Over Freddy's banned, so I won't be making the mistake of calling it that again to avoid the outcome of you all pissing yourselves. But I will say that finding this game was a little more difficult than finding A Shadow Over Freddy's, since the developer of the game is doing everything in her power to remove uploads of it, but rest assured, if you look long enough, you'll find it. She can't beat all of us. The reason this game was deleted, as I'm sure you could probably guess, is because the creator is a slimy, greasy little hobgoblin degenerate. Of course, it's always the devs of amazing games who end up being the worst. Hint hint, Jonachrome, but I'll touch on that at the end of the video. Separating the art from the artist, Graveyard Shift at Freddy's is honestly a masterpiece. There's definitely some things about it I want to complain about, go figure, that's pretty much all I do on this channel, but I can't neglect how fantastic it really is. The level of detail is impeccable, and I'm excited to share it here today with you. Before I get into this game, I do want to give a warning for those who are not familiar. If you are light sensitive or have a condition condition like epilepsy, it might be best for you to just turn this on for sound in the background, as a lot of this game has flashing lights, and I will be showing it on screen. Just had to get that out of the way. So without further ado, let's dive into my most recent therapy session topic, Graveyard Shift at Freddy's. A Graveyard Shift at Freddy's begins with a text-based cutscene. Get used to this because you'll be seeing way more. We're told from the view of a news broadcast that a journalist by the name of Sam Rodriguez has been missing, following a story about an eatery called Freddy Bear's. After Sam went into the building to investigate, he's never been seen since. Fun fact, we actually play as Sam, so this indicates to us that this news broadcast must be happening sometime in the future. I will talk about the rest of these text-based cutscenes at the end of the video. I just wanted to really establish that we are playing as Sam right now. So again, I'll cover the rest of them and I'll recap this night's one, but for now, we're just going to talk about the game like I like to do. Night 1 begins and we open to our office. This is where I want to pause for a moment just to say that the graphics in this damn game, I'm not ever one to give too much of a shit about video game graphics. I care much more about gameplay and story. My favorite game is Undertale, and the graphics of that game are kinda ass, but god damn, this game looks great. Anyways, on night 1, we get a call from the owner of the restaurant. His name is Mr. Raglan. Raglan tells us about how the shift is going to work, of course, leaving out the fact that the animatronics move in typical FNAF fashion. The mechanics of this game are solid, I can't lie. There's not a whole lot to complain about, except one teensy tiny little problem. To start, we have cameras like any other FNAF game, and in our office we have a big ticket booth in front of us. At any time we can pull down a large metal door to block it off, and when we do, a hydraulics meter slowly goes down. If it ever empties, it will open back up. Once you open the door, that hydraulic meter will start to climb back up. Also in our office is a light that lights up the ticket window, which thankfully doesn't run on any power and we can use it as much as we want. However, you do have to pull down the glass covering it every time you push it, something I just found a little weird. On your desk, you'll find a router. If you switch through your cameras too quickly, which I assure you, you will be doing quite frequently, the cameras will begin to go, as Mr. Raglan said, quite funky. The screen just gets super pixelated and you won't be able to see dick. To fix this, you'll need to turn off the router in your office for a few seconds and then flip it back on. Super simple. If you look back in the cameras, you'll see an alarm button. This is used to stop animatronics. I know that explanation is vague, but once I start talking about the animatronics, it will make much more sense, so just hang in there, champ. Lastly, you might notice the other button in the camera, mentioning a speed up. Remember when I mentioned there's one teensy tiny little mechanic I'm not the biggest fan of? This is that mechanic. You might notice there are no camera buttons. That's because in a Graveyard Shift at Freddy's, you have no control over the cameras. No. Instead, there's a switch time visible on the cameras that slowly goes down. Once it's empty, it will automatically switch to the next camera, starting from camera 1 and going to camera 7, then restarting at 1 again. Using the speed up button will make the time go down significantly faster. You can, however, drop your camera to stall this timer. If it hasn't yet sunk in how soul-suckingly excruciating this mechanic is yet, just give it a bit. You'll soon understand. There is one more mechanic in this game, but it isn't introduced until night 3, so I'll cover it then. But now, I should probably talk about night 1 and the threats it poses. In night 1, there's only one threat, and that's Bonnie. Bonnie will move around the cameras until he moves into an attack phase. There are 3 different ways that Bonnie can get into your office. How is that possible if there's only the ticket window? I hear you asking in anticipation for my genius 200 IQ response. Well, in addition to the ticket window, there's actually a door to your office behind you. Some animatronics will be able to attack you from that door as well, but if you really want to shart your pants, the catch is you can't fucking turn around. So, how do you deal with animatronics that attack from that door? Well, that's simple. You just don't let them get there. And that's where the alarm mechanic comes in handy. Most places Bonnie goes aren't very important. There are only 2 cameras that really matter when it comes to Bonnie, camera 5 and camera 6. When Bonnie first reaches camera 5, he will be in either one of 2 locations. One location where he's standing in the middle of the room, which I will be calling the safe location, and another location where he's standing right next to the employee's Bonnie's only door, which happens to be pretty much right behind you. I will be calling this location the bad location. If you ever see Bonnie in the safe location, then you know you can just let him keep moving, as he will always move into camera 6 next. But if Bonnie is in the bad location, you'll have to use your alarm to distract him, and when you do, he'll very creepily look at you, which I think is really cool, and once you use the alarm on him, you'll know that he'll move to camera 6. Once Bonnie has made it to camera 6, he once again has 2 locations he can be at: a safe location where he's standing far away from the camera, and a bad location where he's standing close to the camera and peeking around a corner or doorway. I can't really tell. It's kind of hard to see on cameras a lot of the time. Same with camera 5. If Bonnie's in a safe location, you can ignore him, and if Bonnie is in the bad location, you just use the alarm on him to distract him and set him on the right path. Sounds difficult? Well, keep in mind, you can't really check cameras 5 and 6 because of the stupid fucking timer. Once Bonnie makes it to camera 6 and is in a safe location or has been distracted by the alarm, he will then skip camera 7 and go straight to your window. This is another point where I really just want to sit back and look at how amazing this game's animations are. When Bonnie, or any animatronic for that matter, comes to your window, the animation quality they have while doing so is incredible. But obviously, when Bonnie is at your window, close the door, wait for his footsteps to be heard before reopening it. And congrats, you've dealt with Bonnie's cycle. He's just gonna keep doing that over and over again. Have fun. I actually think that Bonnie is the most difficult animatronic to deal with. You'll understand why when I talk about everybody else. Even though his mechanic is really easy, when you pair it with what everybody else does, his easily becomes the hardest. That was just night 1. We have a bunch more characters to talk about, so I hope you're ready. Night 2 gives us Miss Thickums herself, Chica, and her cupcake, which the game calls Cream. If I'm being honest with you, this game makes me do the same. Chica is pretty easy to deal with. She can only attack from the ticket window, and she'll only appear at the ticket window if you find her on the cameras. When you do, she'll bolt off at the speed of Tyson Gay, and when you pull your camera down, she'll be leaning into your window. All you have to do is close the gate, but you will notice that it takes Chica much longer to leave than Bonnie, so that's just something to make you rip your ball sack off and throw it in a river. Cream, on the other hand, is not easy to deal with, and in all honesty makes me want to stick my willy in a beehive. Cream appears on camera 7, and similar to Foxy from FNAF 1, has multiple different stages that she will move through before entering her attack phase. The first 2 phases both have sound cues, which are just the sounds of a vent. However, upon entering her 3rd stage, she does this really awesome thing where she doesn't make fucking noise at all, and you're left to just shit your britches and hope you both notice and remember to check camera 7. Once she reaches her final phase, all you need to do is use the alarm on her camera and she'll piss off. But it is critical to keep in mind that you also have to take care of all the other bullshit this game has to throw at you, including the stupid fucking automatically switching cameras. I can't handle it. Night 3 introduces a character that makes me want to wipe my ass with sandpaper, Barry the Bat. Barry adds something that this game didn't need at all, something so atrociously frustrating that I want to rip all my teeth out, get dentures, and then rip all the teeth out of the dentures. Barry the Bat effectively acts as a music box. In a game where you can't fucking control which camera you're looking at, isn't that fantastic? No. Ding ding ding, we have a fucking genius in the crowd, guys. Barry the Bat is on camera 5, which I'm very grateful for since that's also where Bonnie makes his dumb little idiot pick a path decision. So at least I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone on this camera. I should say that Barry's music box isn't literally a music box. Instead, music will be playing, and when music is playing, Barry doesn't move. However, the music is on a timer. After a certain point, which is indicated by a small little white bar, the music will stop, and you will have to turn it back on by going to camera 5. While the music box is not playing, Barry will make her way through 5 different states, just like Cream. However, there's also this really silly little side effect where once Barry moves forward a state, she will never move back for the rest of the night. That means that if the music stops and you're busy dealing with Bonnie, staring at Cream, waiting 8 centuries for Chica to leave your door, dealing with some bullshit that the other animatronics do that I'll be talking about soon, or just scratching your ass and smelling it, then Barry will just move her happy ass through all the stages, and there will be no way for you to make her go back. God, if you can hear me, please, just kill me. Can you do that for me? Thank you. Night 4 introduces Sheriff Slithers. Look at this little fucking goon. This little ugly, slithery shit. This little goop ass snake. I just fucking... This motherfucker right here rapes me with that hat on. He rides me like a cowboy, ropes me up with a lasso and stabs me with those little stupid boot spikes. I hate this little idiot so much I can't even describe it to you. This little moron right here is why this game is so goddamn hard. Let me explain. From a glance, Sheriff Slither's mechanic is simple. He will appear on a camera, and all you have to do is look at him for a small amount of time, and he'll happily go away. But, and this is a very large but, he can appear on any camera besides 7 at complete random. He makes a sound cue, but my god is it quiet. So quiet it might not even fucking be there. The amount of times I've died just because of this little dunce is immeasurable. His mechanic is so easy, but paired with every other mechanic you have to deal with that is also annoying as hell, this little guy becomes the straw that breaks the camel's back. I'd say I'd want to rip my hair out because of this guy, but I already have, and I've also waited for it to grow back just so that I could rip it out again. Fuck Sheriff Slithers, he's a bitch. But now I get to talk to you about Night 5, and if you know anything about the relationship between Night 5 and me in FNAF games, then you'd know I'm about to complain even more because not only is our relationship toxic, it's also incredibly abusive. But I need to get this out of my system. Night 5 introduces the man, the myth, the used car salesman, Freddy, or who this game chooses to call Freddy Bear or Dreddy Bear in this night. Dreddy Bear, if I were to describe him to you, I'd probably say he's like if you took a pile of shit that's been pissed on, go ahead and throw it in the microwave for like 10 minutes while it's in a Ziploc bag, take it out, open up that puppy, stick your face right in it, and just take a big whiff. Just a long 8-second inhale. That is what Dreddy Bear is like in this godforsaken game. Freddy moves his way through the cameras like most other characters, except there's a really sick and totally awesome little quirk about him. Similar to Barry the Bat, there's no way to ever make Dreddy Bear move backward. Once he reaches your office, it's game over. Not even closing the ticket window will make him go away. You're just fucked. So, what you have to do is constantly look at him for as long as you can. He can't move while you're looking at him. Now, let's think about some things that could possibly make watching Dreddy Bear difficult, shall we? Well, to start, there's Cream, who you constantly have to check up on after you hear her second sound cue. Then we've got Barry, whose bitch ass needs me to watch her camera for when the music stops playing and starts throwing a little temper tantrum. We can't forget my favorite little fucker, Sheriff Slithers, who can appear on any camera at complete fucking random. Oh, and let's not forget the most infuriating part about needing to constantly watch the character. It's kind of fucking hard to do that when the cameras switch on the goddamn own and there's jack fuck shit I can do about it. So Dreddy Bear, Dreddy Boy, Dreddy Butt, Dreddy Bitch, Dreddy Boo isn't super fun to deal with. But just for a moment, let's imagine what it would be like if you were to beat Night 5. In fact, I'll even show you exactly what happens. What reward do you get for all of your suffering? Come on, let's take a look together. That's right. Dreddy Bear says, "Fuck yo goddamn window, little insignificant idiot," and just rips that shit right open and butt fucks you anyways. And yes, that is actually how the game ends. Is that not insane to you? Put aside the fact how badass the final cutscene looked, but just ask yourself, was it worth it? Because damn, rip main character. Imagine doing the impossible just to be fucked anyways. Absolutely crazy. Oh yeah, and in true FNAF style, there's also a challenge mode called Grave Danger mode, but I'm sure you could already have taken a guess. I didn't even pour a minute of my time into that bullshit, but that's what Graveyard Shift at Freddy's has to offer. But there are still 2 more things I want to talk about before we wrap this video up. The first thing I want to mention is the lore of this game. Remember at the beginning of the video when I said I'd get back to those text cutscenes? This is that point of the video, because it's honestly some of the coolest shit I've ever witnessed. Before each night, we're given some text on screen that unveils little pieces of the story, as I've previously mentioned. Before I start talking about the story, I do want to clarify that I don't know the story for certain. What I'm talking about and what I'm about to say is strictly my theory. I've already covered Night 1's pregame text, but I'll do it again. It seems to be straight from a news broadcast podcast where the anchor mentions how their very own Sam Rodriguez has gone missing after doing a story about visiting the Freddy Bear's location, and nobody knows where he is. That's about all this night gives us. However, Night 2's pre-game text seems to be from the perspective of the restaurant owner Raglan and a health inspector. The health inspector mentions how the mascots are stinky and, before leaving, notices the floor sounds hollow and is emitting a strange smell. When he mentions this, it noticeably makes Raglan uncomfortable. Raglan states that it's just the cellar where they store things. When the health inspector asks to see, Raglan seems hesitant, but then shows him. At this point, we don't learn what's down there, but we'll get back to that shortly. Night 3's pre-game text comes from a journal entry of who I can only assume is Raglan. Raglan writes that he's told the animatronics to not try and leave the establishment, and that one night after closing, a character named Wolfgang tried to leave. However, after nearing the door, he presumably got set ablaze and fucking died, because when Raglan came back the next day, there were ashes left on the floor. Raglan took these ashes and showed them to the other animatronics and told them if they tried to leave, the same would happen to them. This was interesting to me. Not only does leaving the building cause the characters to die, this shows that the characters can die and are therefore alive, which would lead me to believe that they're not just possessed mascots like in most other FNAF games, but are instead their own living organisms, which is honestly deeply disturbing to think about. But if that is the case, then what I still don't understand is why the animatronics would be trying to attack us, unless they were maybe being controlled by something else. Night 4's pre-game text seems to take place between two parties, Sam Rodriguez's parent and their lawyer, and Raglan and his lawyer. They attempt to settle a dispute about where the missing Sam is, and his mother angrily lashes out at Raglan and his lawyer, saying how he just wants to see her boy again, claiming that Raglan's eatery has a known track record for disappearances, and that she knows Raglan is the cause of her son's disappearance. Night 5's pre-game text reveals something crazy, though. It's another journal entry from Raglan, this time years after his last, in 2017, the year this game takes place. Raglan questions how it has gone this far, and that they should have gotten him by now, which could only be questioning how Sam has survived so many nights, and how he's surprised that the characters hadn't killed him yet. Raglan mentions how the system they have has always worked so well, which would lead me to believe that he had a plan to have Sam killed by the mascots, and that he has done this multiple times before. He mentions how back when he was in Sam's position years ago, he had made it this far, and on this night, Night 5, Freddy Bear appeared, except he looked and acted way differently. He mentioned how Freddy Bear was, quote, beyond hunger, end quote, which I actually believe is literal. We know in Night 5 that Freddy Bear did look much different from the other animatronic, contorting in unnatural ways, and after that night, we see a newspaper clipping talking about Sam's disappearance and how it came 4 weeks after the disappearance of a health inspector named Gibson Newman. Sound familiar? It should, because that's the exact health inspector mentioned in the Night 2's pre-game text. I believe that Sam Raglan is hiring people to work at this establishment so that the mascots can kill them and eat them. Since I believe they're living organisms, that would only mean that they need to get energy somehow, and referencing how Raglan said Freddy Bear was, quote, beyond hunger, end quote, that could only mean that it's because he hadn't killed Sam yet, and Freddy Bear decided on Night 5 that he would take killing Sam into his own hands so that they could eat. I believe that both the reason the mascots smell bad and the cellar smelled bad was because the cellar is where the dead bodies of the previous victims were kept, and some of the bodily remains were caked into the fur of the mascots. I believe that the mascots are being controlled by some sort of demons that are confined to the restaurant, and that's why Wolfgang turned into ash when he attempted to leave. Steve Raglan is stuck finding new victims for them to kill and eat so that they don't turn around and kill him instead. That's why he was getting so nervous when he realized they hadn't killed Sam yet. But I don't think that's all. I think the mascots were all fucking with Sam the whole time. Freddy Bear is clearly strong enough to open the ticket booth door when it's down, as seen in Night 5, and I'm willing to bet that the others could do that as well. I think that the mascots are smart enough to know that you think you're playing a game and that your office is the safe point, and that the ticket booth door is the way you protect yourself in this, quote, game. I think the animatronics are knowingly playing along. Look at Chica, for example. When she's at the ticket window, she's clearly leaning into your office. Yet, instead of attacking you, she waits for you to close the window, and when when you do, you can clearly visibly see her move out of the way so that it can close. These mascots know they can kill you at any time. They just wanted to play along and make you think you have a chance. All the way up to the last second when Freddy Bear finally decides the game's over, even in his final moments telling you your time playing the game is up. So that's what I managed to get out of the story of this game. Am I right about it? Maybe. I have no idea. I know other people have made videos about this game, but I don't like watching videos about games I'm going to make videos about for what should be obvious reasons. I mentioned there's one more thing I wanted to talk about, and that's why this game has been removed by the developer, and why it's pretty damn hard to find and get your hands on. There's an entire Google Doc that has been made by the dev's ex-friend detailing the whole situation, and it is long, by the way, 65 pages to be exact, which goes over all the receipts about just how terrible Avocado Dreams, the developer of this game, is. To give you the basic TLDR, Avocado Dreams was the subject of allegations stating that she spread rumors of an ex-friend of theirs financially extorting his ex. She defamed others via blackmail, acted manipulatively and very unprofessionally while working on multiple projects, claimed that she has an exception to a disorder which stems from having a previous disorder, and encouraged and supported threats of violence. If you want me to make a video reading the whole Google document for you guys, just let me know in the comments below, because I couldn't in good faith go into extreme detail of this case in this video. But that's all Graveyard Shift at Freddy's has to offer. I think this game is so incredibly amazing. From the gorgeous animation to the amazing sound design, game design, and story design. I struggle to actually find anything of significance to complain about that isn't just a skill issue on my end. I would like to thank the developer, but I don't thank DGens. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. In the last video, I asked you all if you wanted to see me cover another FNAF game series from start to finish, and which one that would be. My favorite comment is this one from Ryko Janes, and they said I should cover the Five Nights at Sonic series. I've actually thought about doing it a few times, but I haven't just yet, mainly because the first 3 games are literally just skins of the first 3 FNAF games for the most part. But if you guys would be interested in seeing me cover that, then definitely let me know in the comments. The question of this video is, what FNAF game or fan game do you think has the best story and why? With the question of the video being asked, I've been Dexter, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya!